degrees and cloudy in Denver, Colorado, as the crowd files into Invesco Field at Mile High, and they are dressed for the occasion. It's a very different kind of a preseason game, and it all surrounds Jay Cutler, who a few months ago was the franchise quarterback of the Denver Broncos and now is the franchise quarterback of the Chicago Bears. There he is live. His team came out about 90 seconds ago. He expected a mixed reaction. It wasn't mixed, just a torrent of boos. And the Bears tonight ready to take on the Denver Broncos, led by their brand new head coach, 33-year-old Josh McDaniels, on NBC's Sunday Night Football. Al Michaels along with Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Welcome to Denver. Normally the words preseason football and drama don't go together, but they do tonight, and they do because of the following timeline. Mike Shanahan was fired last season at the end of the season after 14 years. Josh McDaniels, who was only 32 at the time he got the job, came to town. 2 months later, McDaniels is trying to make a trade for Matt Castle, Tom Brady's backup, whom he coached at New England with such success last year. Jay Cutler found out about it, got ticked off, demanded a trade, and got the trade to Chicago. So he comes back into town tonight. And Chris, I don't know how this is eventually going to play out, but I do know one thing. In Chicago, where they've been looking for a franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman, a name we love to remind people about, they are absolutely giddy.
You know, and I can't believe that it happened, to be honest with you. You just don't see franchise quarterbacks move like that. And I'm not sure that Lovie Smith can believe it happened either. But I do know this. There are a lot of different ways to win games in the National Football League. You can win with defense or running game or whatever. But the simplest path to a Super Bowl is if you have a franchise quarterback. And right now, the Chicago Bears certainly have one.
The Denver Broncos have Kyle Orton, who was Chicago's quarterback last year, as their guy under Josh McDaniels. I mean, Josh McDaniels didn't just dip his toe in the water. He went right into the Shark Tank. His legacy will clearly eventually be determined by what happens here. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I personally think there were a lot of mistakes made here in Denver over the last couple of months, but I do know this, that Josh McDaniels can coach. This system is certainly a system that works, but now the pressure falls to Kyle Orton. Is he the right quarterback to run this system? And that's the question that these fans want answered out here tonight.
And one thing he won't have at his disposal tonight is his Pro Bowl wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, because he's been suspended for the balance of preseason. So a lot going on. Shakespeare would never have written a play about a preseason football game. But had he, this would have been the game. Chicago at Denver. Kickoff next.
NBC Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
For the first time since 1994, you will not see Mike Shanahan roaming the sidelines of the Denver Broncos. Mike gone after 14 seasons. The new head coach is the youthful Josh McDaniels, who moments ago spoke with Andrea Kramer. Andrea.
Short honeymoon for the 33-year-old first-time head coach. You trade your franchise quarterback, you suspend the Pro Bowl wide receiver. It can't be the way you'd envision your head coaching career starting. What have these last few months been like for you?
There's a number of challenges that you face. Every coach faces them. We're not unique. Our team knows we're not unique. We're excited and ready to play our first home game, and that's really what we're focused on right now.
Brandon Marshall returns to the team September 6th. What's it going to take for him to play for the Broncos this season?
We want everybody pulling in the same direction. That's it. It's simple. You know, we got a locker room full of guys right now that are pulling in that direction, and we'd love for Brandon to join that, and that's why we're having him back then.
Do you think he will play for the Broncos this year?
Sure, that's our intent. That's absolutely the end game.
Jay Cutler saga been very well documented. What's the single biggest thing you take from that experience?
You know, it's not one thing. We're always going to try to do what's best for the football team. And, you know, it's unfortunate that had to happen. But we've moved on. Our team's moved on. We're very happy with our situation now. I'm sure Jay will do well in Chicago, and we can't wait to play against them.
All right, Josh, thank you very much.
You bet. You bet.
And Al, you know, Jay Cutler said that he thinks both teams would probably have done things differently. But when we asked McDaniels, he was emphatic. He would do nothing differently.
Josh McDaniels coming in, and as I said, he didn't just dip his toe in the water. He's got the right pedigree. His father, now retired, was a legendary high school coach in Northeast Ohio. In fact, Josh McDaniels went to McKinley High School in Canton, Ohio, which is right next to the Hall of Fame Stadium. The game we did between Tennessee and Buffalo 3 weeks ago. Robbie Gould is going to kick off for the Chicago Bears, so the crowd will not get to see Cutler at the outset. Instead, it will be Kyle Orton. You've got Peyton Hillis, one of the running backs. In fact, led the team in rushing last season. An injury-decimated running back core in 2008 in Denver. He's back to receive. The ball is in the thin air here in Denver and fielded by one of the up men up at the 18-yard line, the tight end Tony Scheffler, who brings the ball back to the 28. Kyle Orton, drafted from Purdue back in 2005, was the starting quarterback that season for Chicago because Rex Grossman got hurt. Then he went to the bench for 2 years. Then he became the starter again last year. And when last season ended, it looked like Orton would be there. He did a pretty good job. He'd be there for a lot of years. But of course, part of the drama tonight, he's here. Cutler's there. From the 27 on first down. Let's start on the ground. The former Eagle, Terrell Buckhalter, can't get out of the backfield. We have a flag on the play immediately. Adewale Ogunleye making the tackle. And Ed Hockley, who's fairly popular in Denver.
Offense, number 62. 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
Ed in his 18th season, and you all remember the play in the San Diego Denver game last year. The call going against San Diego. Denver winds up winning the game, and Hockley comes back to Denver. Hold is on the center, Casey Wigman. So it'll be first down and 20. Orton 21 and 12 as a starter in Chicago. Buckhalter and Hillis are the running backs, and they flank Orton in the shotgun. Good protection underneath. That's caught by Peyton Hillis. And Hillis gets run out of bounds by Payne after a gain of about a dozen.
Well, this is what we've seen out of this Denver Broncos offense this season. Just a lot of underneath stuff. Basically, they want Kyle Orton to be the point guard of this offense, if you will. The guy that reads the defense. They want somebody who's smart, who throws accurately, who doesn't turn it over in the red zone and wins. And they found somebody with 3 out of 4 of those so far.
Second down and 8. Play action. Pass caught on the outside, and that's Eddie Royal with a flag. Royal coming off a great rookie year. Pisa Tino Samoa making the tackle, but already our second flag of the game, and we've played 47 seconds.
Ineligible receiver downfield, offense, number 73. 5-yard penalty, repeat second down.
For the moment, Chris, it looked like a well-designed play, but no thanks to Chris Cooper.
Yeah, and if you've seen the New England Patriots play recently, you know that that screen game is a big part of it. And also a big part of this year in the National Football League is they're going to watch those offensive linemen a lot more closely. You're not allowed to go downfield on those screen plays, and those linemen want to cheat that system a little bit, and that time they got caught.
And running the screen is something that, for Josh McDaniels, goes back to when he was a child, because his father used to love to do it as the high school coach in Ohio.
And he was the quarterback and the field goal kicker and all those things, so he's used to living under pressure.
Second down and 13. Orton gets flushed down, throws against the grain, and hits Eddie Royal, number 2 draft choice last year out of Virginia Tech, and he wound up catching 91 passes.
One of the key things to watch tonight for Bears fans is Tommy Harris right over here. Here's a guy that talked to him the other day, says he's about 80% on that knee, And you could tell that he's just not quite the same guy that he once was. I mean, this guy in Tommy Harris was just a marvel during their Super Bowl run. He's had that knee surgery. He hasn't been able to come back. And everybody you talk to with the Bears say he is just the man. He has to come back to beat Tommy Harris for us to win again.
3rd and 8. 4-man rush. Protection is good, and the pass is overthrown, and Urlacher almost has the interception. Orton threw 3 interceptions in his first preseason game at San Francisco, but then came back and played very well last week at Seattle.
Well, Correll Buckhalter is supposed to sit down right there. Instead, he broke, and Kyle Orton had no idea he was going to break. And Urlacher almost came up with it, and that would have been a disaster for Kyle Orton. He's already thrown 4 interceptions this preseason, and you can hear the murmur in the crowd already.
The always dangerous Devin Hester is back to return the punt. Brett Kern in his 2nd year out of Toledo. It's a short kick. And Chicago will let it roll, and Denver gets a good break as it bounces all the way down to the 12-yard line. So it looked like a fairly ugly kick. Turns out to be a 59-yarder, and here is the reception for Cutler. It's not that he didn't want to hear it. He's just trying to get the play call from the bench.
It actually might be louder than that in Green Bay.
And the reason your picture is jumping is because the crowd is stomping and the stands are shaking. So there is what Jay thought might be a mixed reaction. That ain't mixed. And he starts with a screen to Hester on the outside, and Hester runs into his own man after a gain of 4. So here again was Cutler coming in to the torrent and cascade of boos and trying to get the play call from the bench.
He might struggle in that way for a while here tonight until either something really good or something really bad happens for him. That maybe the only way he gets cheered here tonight is if he throws a pick 6.
2nd and 6. Forte. About a yard shy of the first down. Forte had a fabulous rookie year last year out of Tulane. McKee is the fullback. Bennett played with Cutler at Vanderbilt, and of course Hester is the other wideout. Olsen, a really good-looking emerging tight end. Orlando Pace, the new man at left tackle, comes over after a stellar career with the Rams. Olin Kreutz, perennial Pro Bowl center. The crowd is like one collective spurned lover right now. Double tight end set. Clark and Olsen. Cutler to throw on 3rd and short. And slings it, and the pass is not held onto. Incomplete. Tried to jam it in to Desmond Clark. And Brian Dawkins, seeing his first action as a Denver Bronco, the former Eagle, who's had a broken hand and hasn't played in preseason yet, is in there. And one thing about Cutler, he is always demonstrative.
He is, and you know, he has a little temper, and he's a little bit of a hothead, and there's a lot of stories about him, and may have had something to do with why he's not in Denver anymore. But this is a guy that is going to feel this kind of pressure throughout the course of the season because he is the franchise now in Chicago.
Brad Maynard in his 13th season to do the booting. Eddie Royal to run it back. Good kick, fielded at the 31 by Royal, and a good open field tackle. That's Rashid Davis, their number 3 receiver, playing on special teams and getting down there to cover. 11 and a half to play in the opening quarter. Cutler and Norton, Chicago and Denver. Capital. Cloudy night. Slight chance of some isolated showers a little bit later. Cutler going over the pictures. And the Broncos have the ball for the second time. They start out with a shotgun with Orton. Buckholter stays in the block, and the pass is incomplete. Quick flip to Eddie Royal. 2nd down and 10. The Broncos offensively, Buckholter, the ex-Eagle, Royal and Stokely outside. Scheffler, the tight end, along with Daniel Graham. one of 9 former Patriots now playing in Denver. Clady is tremendous, had a great rookie season at Boise State. They also love Ryan Harris, Wigman, the longtime center at Kansas City, now in his second year here. McDaniels called the plays in New England. He'll call the plays here. And 2nd and 10. With 11 and a half to go in the opening quarter, and a little flip out to Terrell Buchalter. And Buchalter with some tough running, and you really have to admire Buchalter. We've talked about him a lot through the years. He's been in the league for 9 years, but really he's played only 6 because he's had 3 major knee injuries, 3 major knee surgeries, and he's missed 3 full seasons.
Yeah, no question, but he is the guy now because of some injuries in that secondary. You talked about Ryan Clady, who finished 3rd in the Rookie of the Year balloting for offensive players, getting out in front of that play. This is a tremendous offensive line, one of the best in the league.
3rd and 1. And this time it's Hillis. And this time Hillis cannot pick up the first down. The guy who will eventually be the #1 running back in all probability is their #1 draft choice, the rookie Noshan Moreno out of Georgia. But he's hurt, and they hope to have him back by opening day.
One of the problems when you get a guy like Tommy Harrison, you know there's a knee injury. That's what you're going to see all night long. Guys trying to cut you from the backside. And for Tommy Harris, he's going to see that an awfully lot this season.
Brett Kern for his second punt. Hester to run it back. Hester with 12 return touchdowns in his 3-year NFL career, and it doesn't include running back the opening kickoff at the Super Bowl, and that time a flag goes down, and Hester backing all the way up and calling for a fair catch deep in his own territory. But another flag here on would have been a 57-yard boot.
I know it seems absolutely ridiculous when you see somebody catch one inside the 5-yard line. I've done it. You know, when you start backpedaling from the 15, you just lose track of where you are in the field, and now they're stuck inside the 5.
During a punt, illegal block in the back by the receiving team number 26. Half the distance to the goal. Denver keeps the ball, first down.
So that'll back him up to the 3-yard line. Trumaine
Correction,
McBride.
Chicago's ball, first down.
Here's a look at the penalty. Cutler coming back onto the field.
Hi, may I help you? We're shopping for car insurance.
NBC comedy at 10 Eastern and Pacific, 9 Central and Mountain. It's about time. Cutler backed up near his end zone. Forte tries to give him some breathing room and does. Out to the 7-yard line, tackled there by DJ Williams. Cutler last year in Denver, he took over in his rookie season at the end of the year in November, and then was the starting quarterback the last 2 years. 4,526 yards, a franchise record. And when you see a franchise record and you see it as a Denver Bronco, that's a franchise record because you know who held the record.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But there's also 18 interceptions on the tail end of that one too, though.
2nd down and 7, and Cutler almost gets sacked in the end zone for a safety. Instead, it's Forte, and that's Elvis Dumerville, who almost gave the crowd a magnet thrill.
Elvis Dumerville, who's been asked to be a stand-up linebacker, is pretty good at this. He's not very tall. When we talked to Orlando Pace, he said he has trouble with shorter guys because as I get older, I have trouble bending over. Dumerville gets in, and if he had gotten that sack, out, this place would have exploded.
Not only do they want to see him sacked, but to be sacked for a safety.
Oh, boy.
3rd and 8. And that pass is incomplete, and that's almost picked off. So the pressure was put on. The closest anybody was to the ball before it hit the ground was Kenny Peterson. Darrell Reed came flying in to pressure Cutler. A quick 3 and out. Jay gets saluted as he goes to the sideline. Chicago to punt.
Well, they come inside with the linebacker there. That's Darrell Reed who almost gets it. And for Jay Cutler, this is about as unimpressive as we have seen him in some time. This is exactly what he's going to face in the opener against Green Bay. And Lovie Smith actually loved the concept that he had to play in this environment now.
Here's Maynard to boot. Royal back to receive it. Eddie calls for a fair catch. Pulls it in at the 44-yard line. 39-yard boot. 8:26 to go in the period. No score.
Over the limit, under arrest.
It's been almost 30 years since you had a quarterback trade of the magnitude that took place this spring after the '79 season, and those guys were well along in their careers. Dan Pastorini went from the Oilers to Oakland in exchange for Ken Stabler, and that's the last time you saw two starting quarterbacks traded for each other.
Did you have a hairstyle like that in the 70s?
I certainly did. From the 44-yard line, that's Carell Buckholder picking up just one. What were you wearing in the 70s?
I'm not telling.
You cut your hair with a bowl.
That was it. I still do. There's Tommy Harris again. Now watch him coming down the line here, coming and making this play. Of course, the Denver Broncos always known for cutting. That time Tommy said, I don't think so. And that's the Tommy Harris they need to see. There was some discussion as to whether or not he was even going to play. We watched him in practice the other day, and he certainly was limping around on that knee. But when he gets on his toes and starts running, he is one of the dynamic defensive tackles in the league.
And in the middle of that line play, that was Chris Cooper, the right guard for the Denver Broncos. Steve Antonopoulos, the Greek, the longtime trainer, now in his 34th season, is the first to attend to him. Take a look at 73 as he gets rolled up on from the back. Buckholder
on the back, and I tell you, that would be a significant loss. Chris Cooper went the entire season last year without giving up a sack. The only guard in the NFL to play all 16 games and not give up a sack. So certainly a lot of concern on the part of the Broncos.
Russ Hochstein, who was a former Patriot, is one of his backups, but right now Seth Olson, a rookie from Iowa, will come in. So Chris Cooper gets escorted back to the Broncos sideline, and there is a look at Olson, who was drafted in the 4th round. Played his college football at Iowa. It'll be 2nd down and 9. Every possession in this game, all 4, 2 for each team, has been a 3 and out.
It's a great opportunity for Kyle Orton. Short field. He needs to get something going with this offense now.
Double tight end set. Play fake. Buys time. Fires a strike. Eddie Royal spins away. Gets taken down from behind by Pisatino Samoa, but not until he reaches the 19-yard line. It's a gain of 24 yards and the first down of the game.
And here's one of the things that I think is a bit of a weakness for the Chicago Bears. They want to attack downhill all the time and play the run. You go a little play fake, and then look at the hole in behind here. Big openings in this defense right behind the linebackers as they try to attack the run. One of my favorite receivers in the NFL right there, Eddie Royal. This young man is magnificent in just his 2nd year.
Left McBride out to dry. Chicago needs to shore up its secondary. They also have some injuries back there as well. And the handoff this time is given to Buckholder. Gets to the 16-yard line.
Well, for Kyle Orton, it has been a mixed bag this preseason. He came over, had a horrible first game, threw 3 interceptions. Watch it here. He's got a guy in the flat wide open. The underneath coverage picked. Instead of throwing it for the easy touchdown, in there, and he gets it picked off. Then he comes back. Jabbar Gaffney dropped this pass after Orton was playing so well, and it led to this left-handed Hail Mary, whatever that thing was. And so the fans sigh again in Denver on that one, but there he is back in the red zone again.
Has to reach down to get the low snap, and then he hits Royal again. And Royal gets taken down to the 13-yard line. Tino Samoa makes the tackle. And as good as Royal can be, I mean, think of how much better he can be if they get Marshall, and Marshall gets his head back on straight, and he comes back.
Yeah, and that's the issue. And if you take Brandon Marshall, the football player, certainly one of the best. And boy, it looks like Eddie Royal now may be coming off with a bit of a shoulder thing here as well. And that's would be big news, because without Marshall, they have to have that young man.
3rd and 4. at the 12-yard line.
54 is the mic. 180. What's up?
And a little fade to the side of the end zone, but not inbounds. Tony Scheffler was forced out. Corey Graham with good coverage on the play. It'll be 4th down, and in comes the field goal unit. But that could be a very costly drive for the Broncos to lose your right guard, Cooper. We'll get a report on him. And now they're attending to Royal on the sideline as well.
You know, we all want to say, boy, this is the big rival and all this stuff, Jay Cutler and Josh McDaniels, all that stuff. But the last thing in the world you want to do is lose star players in the preseason. And believe me, these coaches have that in the back of their mind.
Matt Prater, who took over a couple of years ago, and they let Jason Elam go. 31-yard field goal attempt. And the kick is good for the first points of the game. They come with 5:39 left in the opening quarter. Denver 3, Chicago nothing. Plenty of signs. Some of them we can even show you here tonight at Invesco Field. Let's go back to this timeline to lay it all out for you chronologically. The saga here, February 28th. It's a discussion between Josh McDaniels and the Patriots and the Bucs about trading Cutler, who then finds out about it, gets very upset. McDaniels says, I'm not going to trade him. Cutler is in town here, meets with McDaniels and owner Pat Bowlen, and it didn't go well. The next day he tells his agent to request a trade. Then he doesn't even return the phone calls of Bowlen and McDaniels. And finally, Pat Bowlen says, we will trade him. And they do on April the 2nd. And that's how Jay Cutler winds up in Chicago.
And the one thing that we did ask Jay Cutler about is, why didn't you return Pat Bowlen's call? And he said, I never intentionally did not call him back. So now it's a he said, she said kind of a situation. Take it as you will. But the other part that I found interesting is he said he never had a blow up with Josh McDaniel. But when he didn't promise me that he wouldn't pursue other trades, he said that was it. That's when I wanted a trade.
Verbiage parsing. That kick goes deep into the end zone. You know, it's so interesting. I mean, in preseason, you've had the boos, of course, for Cutler. Michael Vick, Brett Favre, of course, it all happened in the last couple of weeks. Favre going back to Minnesota, Vick to Philadelphia. But this has been going on for months. This will be fascinating to see the way it plays out in both cities, too.
Well, and they're always going to be tied together. There's no way that Josh McDaniels and Jay Cutler aren't going to be tied together forever now. And it'll be part of the story for as long as those two are still working in this league.
And Orton becomes a candidate for Best Supporting Actor. Cutler throws over the middle to Forte. Forte was in for 84% of Chicago's offensive plays last year. An enormous percentage for anybody, much less a rookie. He can block. We know he can run over 1,200 yards. And he also can catch the ball.
Yeah, and what I found interesting, 36% of the offense. That was the highest percentage of any one player. But out of 379 touches that he had a season ago, one fumble. One fumble. That's pretty remarkable.
2nd and 5. Forte again. And again, they're going to be booing him all night. And when we have the high shot, and they start to boo, and they also stop at Old Mile High Stadium, which was their home across the parking lot until 2000. That place would shake. It was built like an erector set, and somehow, some way, I'm not an architect, but they said they were able to build in some sort of flexibility here. So when they stop, it doesn't shake as much as Mile High, but it shakes, and you can feel it.
It definitely shakes a little bit, but not like that old place. You got a little nervous calling a game in the old place.
Yes, you did. Greg Olsen splits to the right. They flex the tight end, and they go to him, and he's liable to become the favorite target of Jay Cutler before it's all said and done, because they can use him a lot like Dallas Clark, get him outside, work him on screens, do a lot of things with him.
Well, especially against 34 defenses, the Bears like to split out their tight end, and Greg Olsen and Matt Forte going to be the guys. And there you get your first look at Brian Dawkins, also the former Philadelphia Eagle, multiple Pro Bowl guy. He's out there playing with a broken wrist, hand, and has the big cast on him. But they are so excited about that guy. They think he is going to be the Ray Lewis of this defense.
And Cutler that time had a little too close to Forte on the handoff, so Matt can't get sprung. 3.5 minutes to play in the quarter. Denver on top 3-0.
And isn't it interesting, too, that Lovie Smith, with all the noise and shaking it up, and this drive, what does he do? He goes back to what he knows best, run the football. You know, he even told Jay Cutler, hey, I love you, we want to throw the ball, all that stuff.
Yep.
But the Chicago Bears are a running team and a defensive team, and that won't change.
2nd and 10. Cutler is 4 of 6 for 19 yards. And that's caught. Reaching up for it is Hester, and he'll be stopped a little shy of the first down. 3rd and inches. Let's get an injury update. Andrea?
All right, now, you know, guys, this is Patriots West now, so they're going to be very circumspect with injuries. They're calling guard Chris Cooper a lower extremity injury, which is questionable for his return. But here's the deal. They took him off the field. He was helped off. No weight on his foot whatsoever. As for wide receiver Eddie Royal, they're calling him an upper extremity injury. He is probable for his return. He was catching passes on the sidelines with his left hand. He looks like he could be okay.
That's good news about Royal. Time is called here. It'll be 3rd down, 3rd and inches when we come back. NBC will head to Green Bay for the first Sunday night game of the year. It'll be the Packers against the Bears. After the Chicago timeout, on a tight roll on 3rd and inches, Cutler over the middle goes to Desmond Clark, his tight end, for a first down. 3rd down and 1, and he hits him for 25 yards.
All right, now take a bet here. You think they're making that call with Kyle Orton as their quarterback? They've got Jay Cutler, and one of the things that they've talked about with him that surprised them when they got him was how mobile he is. They have really been able to move him around out of the pocket, and he is so dynamic throwing the ball down the field that the defensive backs just have to keep running backwards. Last week he threw 160 yards down the field.
Cutler in rhythm now, so is the offense. Forte is looking to throw. Forte is going to throw that one into the stands.
You know, there aren't many football players that smart. Usually when the halfback gets a chance to throw a halfback pass, he throws it, you know, and he tries to force it in here. And Devin Hester's coming down the field here. But to see a running back simply throw the thing away is pretty rare, because usually when they get an opportunity, they want to work on their quarterback rating, you know.
Well, when you spend 4 years at Tulane and you actually go to class, you are pretty bright. He's stopped there by Ronald Fields. Forte did not throw a pass in the regular season last year, so they give the teams that will face the Bears a little something extra to think about.
There's no doubt planting the seed, but Matt Forte this offseason, despite the huge rookie year that he had, went back and finished his final semester, got his finance degree, and he's pretty proud of it, and he should be.
A minute left in the quarter, 3rd down and 9. This drive began at the Chicago 20-yard line. Only a 3-man rush, but they put pressure on him, and Cutler has to settle for Forte underneath. He gets tackled to the 22-yard line, and that was Dumerville coming around the corner again, getting by the left tackle Pace and getting in Cutler's face.
Well, again, Dumerville going underneath Orlando Pace. Watch this, dipping and underneath and going around. And Orlando Pace has been one of the great tackles in the game. He's had a lot of injuries, but tonight he has his hands full with Elvis Dumerville, who is probably the Broncos' best defensive player along with Champ Bailey.
40-yard field goal attempt, Robbie Gould out of Maynard's hold. And through the thin air it goes, through the goalposts to tie the game. 10 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. Chicago and Denver have traded field goals. Well, it's become traditional for the Super Bowl champion to open at home on a Thursday night. New England did it in 05. Pittsburgh did it. There was Jerome Bettis in 06. Indianapolis celebrates its championship in 07. Last year it was the Giants. Michael Strahan came out of the replica of the Lombardi Trophy, and back we go to Pittsburgh. And that's a game, of course, that a lot of people thought would wind up as the AFC Championship game last year, but Baltimore knocked off Tennessee. But still, it's Tennessee, 13 wins last year against the Steelers.
Not a bad opener for us, huh? The world champs against the team that had the best record in football a season ago, and get a chance to watch Chris Johnson and some of those offensive weapons that they have with Tennessee. And, of course, the world champs, what a spectacular game that was. You called it, and probably still recovering from that one.
Fabulous. That was just great. Great Super Bowl. I mean, the last 2 Super Bowls have been, you know, I don't want to say the 2 best, but on a list of 5, they're both in there. Goal kicking off to the goal line, Peyton Hillis. Back out to the 22-yard line with 5 seconds left in the quarter. Time for probably one offensive play. And Kyle Orton coming out. This is the 3rd preseason game. If you follow football, you know that this is really the dress rehearsal. Each team will have one more game coming up this week. The starters will play very sparingly in that. But tonight, both offenses and defenses figure to be in not only for the first half, but into the second half as well.
In this first quarter, kind of a feeling out process. Don't you kind of get the feeling that both these quarterbacks were a little nervous coming out here? But it's really good for them to get that sensation before they do hit the opener.
Good news for the Broncos is Eddie Royal is back in the game, wide to the right. Under pressure, Scheffler is run down by Urlacher, but they spring Scheffler to the outside, and that will end the first quarter. That's a gain of 8, and it'll be 2nd and 2, end of 1. The game is tied at 3, and NBC Sunday Night Football is back after these messages.
Jimmy Fallon's back in all new with Rachel Maddow, Ashley Simpson, and Smokey Robinson. All new this week on NBC.
Back in Denver to start the second quarter. Lovie Smith is the head coach, and he's also taken over the defense this year. They brought Rod Marinelli into Chicago. Rod had been in Detroit and, of course, got fired last year after the 0-16 season. Brian Urlacher, he takes the calls from the sideline. Bob Babich, who was the defensive coordinator last year, basically working with the linebackers this year, is the guy on the mic to him. And here is Buckhalter sprinting for a first down on 2nd and 2, but a penalty. And that'll come
Holding.
back.
Offense, number 78, 10-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
Ryan Plady, the left tackle, #1 pick out of Boise State last year.
You know, you were talking a little bit about Marinelli, and I mean, to a man, everybody that I interviewed getting ready for this game, they talked about, we love this guy. I mean, not like a little enthusiasm, like a lot of enthusiasm. Urlacher said you go by him in the hallway and you go, hey, Rod, how you doing? He goes, Brian, listen, if you just use a swim move, you know, when you go into the pass rush, you'll get the guy. Believe me, he is all football all the time. He and Lovie are committed to this cover 2, Tampa 2 defense, and they live it and breathe it and talk it all the time.
2nd and 12, and they're going to give it to Royal, and that's not going to fool anybody on the reverse as Eddie Royal gets taken down by Anthony Adams. They smell that one out, and it turns into a loss of a couple.
Try and get a little fancy here. And I tell you, the guy that, to me, that stuck out a little bit so far in this game has been Anthony Adams. He's a guy that is trying to prove himself worthy of that nose tackle position, and they're competing against Marcus Harrison. Of course, injuries earlier this week, it's a bit of a problem, but this is a guy that seriously has a chance to show something tonight and earn that starting position.
More than a couple. He lost 6 on the play, 3rd and 18. Fake inside handoff. Now Brandon Stokely, the veteran who won a Super Bowl ring in Baltimore and then in Indianapolis, now playing here in Denver, normally out of the slot. Gain on the play of 8, and it'll be 4th down and 10.
Well, not exactly the offensive explosion we thought might come out of this game. We've been talking so much about the quarterbacks and the head coaches, and so far it's been these 2 new-look defenses getting it done.
Kern's boot will go out of bounds at around the 33-yard line. Chicago with the ball. Early second quarter in Denver, 3-all. And then they really leaked in 07. And then last year, they gave up 28 points and 375 yards per game. And on top of that, they only took the ball away 13 times lowest in the league. So Nolan runs the defense, and Cutler throws, and it's a floating pass that is caught by Clark, who breaks a couple of tackles, then gets spun out of bounds, broke out of the grasp initially of DJ Williams.
You know, go back to Mike Nolan a little bit. Here's a guy that, as a defensive coordinator, his teams have averaged 32 turnovers per year. Now, let me put that in perspective for you. Last year, only the Baltimore Ravens had more than that, with 34. So this, when he is a defensive coordinator, they turn the ball back over, and that is certainly something that has to improve for the Denver Broncos.
2nd and 5, and Kevin Jones is the running back, spelling Forte. And Jones gets it up to the 39-yard line. Former Detroit Lion, came over last year and was injured, never really healthy, and that's part of the reason that Forte had to play so much.
Yeah, it is. They're hoping to get Kevin Jones and Garrett Wolfe in there a little bit more. Again, you're looking at Elvis Dumerville on the outside. He made the switch over to the 34 outside linebacker. He was plenty nervous about it when he first got the news. He'd only been playing defensive end with his hand down, but when you watch him backpedal, he looks like he's been playing linebacker his whole life.
3rd and 4. And that pass is underthrown. Garrett Wolfe, who had come into the game, is covered by the linebacker DJ Williams, and the crowd, of course, loves a Cutler 3-and-out.
Yeah, and here comes one of the best blitzing safeties in football. Brian Dawkins is going to come off the edge and put the pressure on Jay Cutler, and all he could do is simply just throw that one out of there. We have seen neither of these defensive coordinators being very shy here tonight. They have been bringing pressure throughout the game.
The punter is Brad Maynard. Alfonso Smith, good-looking rookie out of Wake Forest, is back to receive it. Great directional kick. Flag is down, however. So for the moment, near perfection on the boot. They'll spot it at the 3-yard line, and Ed Hockley will give us the call in a moment. I promise. Been a punt fest tonight. That's the 7th of the game.
During the kick, holding by the receiving team, number 25. Half the distance to the goal. Denver keeps the ball. First down.
Punt fest is a word a fan doesn't like to hear. But we're journalists, so to speak.
Would you one time?
Community, NBC's new college comedy, is joining Thursday's comedy lineup. Joel McHale leads the cast, and Community, which premieres Thursday, September 17th, right here on NBC. From the 2-yard line, this drive has begun with a Peyton Hillis 2-yard gain out to the 4-yard line. So that Bear defense with a chance to pin him and force a punt.
Well, we've been focused in on Tommy Harris tonight. Watch this. His game is penetration right over here. Tommy Harris going to get right in the backfield and almost produce a safety, almost come away with 2 points here, because this is turning into more and more Chicago Bear type of football game now. Their defense is starting to find their edge a little bit out there, and they have an opportunity to turn this game around right now. This defense scores a lot.
Harris swallowing up the rookie Seth Olsen, playing in place of the injured Cooper. Good play fake, buys time, pass caught, and that should be a first down as Peyton Hillis makes the catch and does reach the marker, but now he is hurt. Tino Isamoa making the tackle, and Hillis will hobble back across the field to his bench.
Little show of confidence that time for Kyle Orton, letting him throw out of his own end zone. Good play fake. And this guy Peyton Hillis is some kind of weapon. You know, he plays fullback, he plays running back. You see him flanked out as a receiver. He's a good blocker. He's just one of those sort of indispensable kind of guys for an offense that can do so many things.
And this time the ball is carried by Buckholder. They need running backs. I mean, Denver has been noted through the years for not only the running backs, but the scheme that they've run on the offensive line. But last year when the season ended, and it ended in a disaster with those 3 losses at the end, and San Diego came on and killed them to go to the playoffs. They had 7 running backs on IR at the end of the year. There they were.
And a lot of people think the final injury to Peyton Hillis is what made them lose those final 3 games. And, of course, the killer against Buffalo right here at home that really knocked them out of the playoffs.
Second down and 12. Orton steps up and with good patience winds up hitting Eddie Royal. And speaking of the running backs, Chris, I mean, tonight they're minus the guy who probably will be their starting running back at some point this season, the #1 rookie draft choice, Moreno. And Lamont Jordan was also picked up by them, and McDaniel's very familiar with him, of course, from New England. He's hurt.
Yeah, you saw Noshawn Moreno in the first preseason game, and he looked electric. He is really going to help. And really, you can make the case that Kyle Orton has really been playing without his 2 best offensive weapons, and Noshawn Moreno and Brandon Marshall throughout the course of this preseason.
3rd and 6. And that time the coverage is good and the pressure is good. And that's Mark Anderson, number 97, who makes the sacks, 17 of them. 17 sacks over the last 2 years for the sack specialist Anderson.
Well, Mark Anderson's one of those guys. They've got to be thrilled to see him getting some pressure. Remember him back in his rookie year, 10, 11 sacks, whatever it was, and like, oh my gosh, this guy is going to be a superstar. And then every year it's been dwindling since. He's been less and less a factor. They say he's had a good camp. He better.
Give him an even dozen in that rookie year. Kern kicking. Hester from the 43, the ever dangerous one. Hester inside the 40, the 30. Hester taken down to the 4-yard line. Devin Hester, who came into the league with such a splash, great run back specialist. Now, of course, he's one of their primary wide receivers, is limited to punt return duty, doesn't return kickoffs anymore, but that's another example of how dangerous he is.
Well, Devin Hester had no return touchdowns a season ago. They tried to move him to wide receiver. He has become their #1 receiver. But as often happens when a returner does that, they end up falling off. Their numbers aren't as good. And certainly we saw that with Hester. Look at the double team block. And that really was what sprung him.
Graham and McBride taking Bruton completely out of the play. 54-yard run back. And that puts Chicago in business at the 4. Forte back in the game. He has the ball. Cuts inside. Is stopped just short of the goal line. Andre Davis, for the moment, stops what would have been a Chicago touchdown. 2nd down and goal inside the 1.
Well, Matt Forte is certainly, his vision, I think, is one of his great assets. But check out in the middle of this play, Chris Baker right here is just going to take one of the great centers in the game, Olin Kreutz, and put him on his back. Didn't quite get there, but that's pretty impressive for a guy fighting for that job.
2nd and goal. Forte behind McKee into the end zone. Matt Forte with a Chicago touchdown. Devin Hester setting it up with that 54-yard return. And in they go for the first touchdown of the game.
Pretty simple play here, really. All the offensive linemen just submarine, try to go underneath, and then they leave it to Matt Forte to go up over the top. And as you might expect, the Chicago Bears, a special teams play is what has turned this thing around.
Robbie Gould converts. 8 minutes and 12 seconds remaining in the opening half in Denver, where the Chicago Bears go out in front 10-3. Well, if this were the end of the fight, it would be a draw. As you take a look at what the judges would see, each guy 8 of 11, yardage fairly similar, rating fairly similar. 10-3 is the score. Chicago leading, thanks mainly to Devin Hester.
And it looks like Jay Cutler's breathing again, a smile on his face, and I'm sure it wasn't very easy early on.
Gould's kick 5 yards deep. Peyton Hillis, who was shaken up the last time Denver had the ball, shows that he's completely healthy again, taking it all the way out to the 39-yard line, and we'll go back to the Devin Hester punt return.
You know, sometimes it's the block that you don't make that ends up being the difference. Watch Craig Stelz, number 20, right at the end of this play, is going to just simply take his hands and throw them up in the air. If he had put his hands on them at all there, it would have ended up being a penalty and this thing comes back. Instead, Stelz just sticks his hands in the air and let Devin Hester do his thing.
Second-year player Stelz, good special teams guy, backup safety out of LSU. Orton slings it to the outside. Scheffler, the tight end. Gain of about 4. Tackled there by Trumaine McBride.
You know, and we have not seen Kyle Orton throwing the ball down the field very much during the course of the preseason. This is a ball control offense. They want to spread everybody out, get the receivers all over the field, throw those outside screens, and let him just simply distribute the ball. That's the reason that Josh McDaniels, I think, felt pretty good about Kyle Orton being his quarterback and not Jay Cutler. He didn't need the gunslinger.
2nd and 6, and that is knocked down and almost picked by Kevin Payne. There's a flag on the play. Payne on the safety blitz, bursting through untouched.
Kevin Payne getting an opportunity to play because of some injuries in the secondary, and has done well along with Al Afalava back there, the rookie.
6th round draft choice, Afalava.
Holding offense number 62. 10-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
Casey Wigman, the center.
Kevin Payne out of the safety position is going to come right off the edge and get there. Not sure that maybe he didn't have Correll Buckhalter as his responsibility. You could see him hesitate as Buckhalter went by him. It was almost like, uh-oh, well, at this point, I might as well just go ahead in there and try and make a play. Lucky he got his hands on that ball.
2nd penalty on Wigman tonight. 2nd down and 16. To the outside. Spinning away after making the catch is Chad Jackson from Florida. He might see a little more action tonight than normal. Jabbar Gaffney would have been a starting wideout, but he had a hand injury they reported before the game, so he won't play tonight.
Yeah, and Chad Jackson coming over from New England. He understands the system of Josh McDaniels, and this is an offense now that you're starting to see some of their looks. But again, when they get penalties, which they've had on 1st down a couple of times tonight, it's awfully tough for this style of offense to then pick up 20 yards.
3rd and 8. Orton, good presence, and then the pass with a flag coming in, slightly behind, but certainly catchable by Scheffler. Incomplete, penalty.
Well, that was just a miss that time by Kyle Orton. He really had Scheffler wide open, and as he shuffled to the left, just let it get away from him. That was a big chance.
Before the pass was thrown and before the quarterback left the pocket, illegal contact, defense, number 44. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and an automatic 1st down.
Kirk Dornan, the back judge, making the call. Hockley telling us what it is. Illegal contact, defensive foul, automatic 1st down.
Oh, Kevin Payne with a good play, and then he comes back with this one here. You've got to be careful. It's so tempting to want to get your hands on these receivers down the field. And well, that was, he put them up, but then also tried to pull them back away. Bit of a collision, but he did cut him off, and I think that was as much the call as anything else. He sort of tried to cut off the route, and that's what drew the flag.
From the 44, play action, backside screen. Royal slips away from a tackle. And another flag is down. A lot of flags, especially for a 3rd preseason game with the starters in there all night.
Well, you know, Al, sometimes the referees like to make a point, and I think this ineligible man downfield is the point that's being made tonight.
Ineligible receiver, number 78 offense, downfield before the pass. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, 1st down.
And Ryan Clady, we've heard his number called a couple of times, and Wigman, the 14-year veteran center, as well.
A lot of those screens so dependent on.
And the lineman was not downfield before the ball was thrown. No foul. 2nd down.
Oh. So Ed again earning the blessing of the Denver crowd.
He is Mr. Popular. Left tackle is going to go down the field. He is a little bit, but it was a screen pass. It doesn't matter. I think that they had the call right the first time and then picked it up. He was clearly 2 or 3 yards down the field when that ball was released.
That'll make it 2nd down and 5 now. There was Clady, and look at that. Every offensive snap for the rookie #1 draft choice. On a roll to his right, Buckhalter making the catch, and as you can see, he's a little bit short of the first down. Stopped there by Payne, and Buckhalter comes away gimpy.
Boy, and you really hate to see that, knowing the history of what he's gone through with those knees and the problems. He's missed 3 entire seasons in his career due to injury, but when you look at his numbers, like 4.5 yards per carry when he's been in, he's just been so productive, but he's had a hard time staying on the field.
And those are 3 major surgeries as well, so there's a kid who's as resilient as they come. I mean, at some point you got to say enough already, but he hasn't. Loves to play. Timeout called here prior to a 3rd down and 2. And of course led to the interview and the subsequent hiring for the head coaching position in Denver. 3rd down and 2 after the timeout, and the pass down the sideline is incomplete, intended for Buckhalter, who comes right back into the game. Pressure put on by Ogunleye. The coverage was perfect that time. 4th down and 2, and Orton will come to the bench holding his hand.
Well, it looks like he hit it, that finger on a helmet.
Yep. Orton with at least a cut finger, and he has to hope nothing more than that. Britton Colquitt comes in to do the punting, and that kick will bounce at the 6 and will be tapped back and kept in play at the 2-yard line. Josh Barrett with the tap back. And let's go back and take a look at what happened to Orton on the last play.
It looks like Adewale Ogunleye is going to hit his hand on Orton's hand.
Right.
And somehow split it. You could see he knows right away, and that thing's bleeding. And don't forget Chris Sims, the backup quarterback, is not available because of an ankle injury. And there's the bloody finger, and it's the old thing like a hangnail on a knuckleball pitcher. That is the last finger that is on the ball. That's where the rotation comes from, and that's going to be tough for a quarterback to come in with that.
The backups are Tom Brandstater, a rookie from Fresno State, and Ingle Martin, who they picked up to get another body in camp here as Matt Forte takes the ball out to the 4-yard line, and that's the last sight that fans here want to see. Andrea's right there watching Orton, at least for the moment, go back to the Denver locker room.
Boy, they think they don't want Kyle Orton until you see that, and now they really want Kyle Orton because there is not much behind him at this point.
Doomerville getting the crowd pumped up, but they don't need to get pumped up as long as Cutler's on the field. 2nd down and 8. Cutler fires incomplete. 3rd down, and of course we'll get a report as rapidly as possible on Orton, and they can only hope it's simply a cut and nothing structural.
Boy, what a great play by Andre Goodman here. He reads his slant all the way, reads Cutler's eyes, and jumps in front of this thing. And what an addition Andre Goodman is. Of course, everybody throws opposite of Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey said the other day, don't worry about this guy. He is something special, and he showed it right there.
Goodman's been around with Detroit and most recently Miami over the last 3 years. 3rd and 8. Play clock ticking all the way down. Cutler can't get the call, and so has to take a timeout. Timeout with 4:35 to go in the half. Sunday Night Football from Denver being brought to you by the new Coors Light 12-ounce cold by Madden NFL 10. Available now. Rated E for everyone. EA Sports. It's in the game. Speaking of John Madden, I'm reminded of a story, Chris. Last year we're doing Denver, San Diego at the end of the year. We're meeting with the Broncos. Cutler comes in. He leaves. Mike Shanahan then comes in. And John and I said to Shanahan, we've never met a guy more forthright, candid, open, honest, no BS. Never have we interviewed anybody like that. And Mike laughed and said, we're working on that.
Don't have to worry about it now.
No. Third and 8 from the 4. And over the middle, Cutler threads it to Earl Bennett, his college teammate for one season down at Vanderbilt when Bennett was a freshman. And Cutler was a senior, and that's a 16-yard gain. And Bennett figures to be worked more and more into the Chicago rotation.
Watch Bennett. He's going to knock the defender down here. That's one way to get open. Just come out and establish your turf. Those two guys were quite a combination. It was Bennett's freshman year at Vanderbilt, and he was the leading receiver. And now here they are back together again. And Jay says, without question, he's my favorite.
From the 20. Forte, penalty. Gain of 5 for the moment. There have been 7 accepted penalties.
Illegal
5
shift.
on Denver.
Offense. Number 22 and 37 were moving at the same time. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Third one against Chicago. Forte and McKee both moving simultaneously.
Don't you feel a little sorry for Kyle Orton, though? I mean, here's a guy who's like an innocent bystander in all this stuff. The trade and Cutler, and now all of a sudden he's over here having to try and impress these Denver Broncos fans. And, you know, it's going to follow him throughout his career now as well.
Well, the bigger issue right now is he okay? The opener is 2 weeks from today. There is Brandstater, the rookie, who's going to come in. They open up at Cincinnati 2 weeks from today. First and 15. And Cutler fires it over the middle, and there's that arm. Greg Olsen makes the catch. Brian Dawkins with the coverage, and when it comes to velocity, who can throw harder than Cutler?
And accuracy, I tell you what, this one right here, the thing that impresses you about Jay Cutler is when he makes his mind up, he's going to zip it. And that guy right there, Greg Olsen, I believe will end up being the leading receiver on this team this year if it's not Matt Forte. He is so athletic. He's improved his blocking over the years, but he is a receiver first in this offense.
Now Forte. If Olsen leads the team in receptions, Forte might be second.
Yep. DJ
Williams, the linebacker, with the coverage there. Second down and 9 with 2:40 to play in the half.
I tell you, that DJ Williams is some player. He is so athletic at that middle linebacker position. Down on the goal line, you'll see him actually drop from linebacker back to play free safety. They allow him to just roam the middle of the field as the free safety from that linebacker position.
He was their #1 pick in 04 out of the U, as they like to call it, Miami. Second down and 9. Cutler fires again, and that is caught, and again it is Olsen, and Olsen had Dawkins draped on him. Now one official comes in, the side judge comes over, and he concurs. It is a completion. It's a 15-yard gain. It is a first down, and we have come to the 2-minute warning.
The receiver caught the pass and was on the ground with possession before the ball was pulled out of his hand. Down by contact, first down. And that's the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes.
Eddie's done everything but lead us to a commercial. We're going there now. We'll have for you on Sunday Night Football. All coming up at halftime. Meanwhile, we've got a challenge here that took place before the 2-minute warning. So since it took place prior to the warning, you can challenge. And so the challenge has been made by McDaniels, contending that it was not a catch. Had it been after the 2-minute warning, of course, there's no challenge. Here it is. Hockley said he went down on the ground with possession before the ball was taken away.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think Ryan McBean came in there and stripped that away. Now, make sure he catches the ball right there if there's no bobble. But I think I would have given that one a catch, too.
Yeah, I think the play is going to stand. It's a challenge here for McDaniels. He could be challenging that it was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, I think that's what they are. Yeah.
And forget the other part of it.
Yeah. But, you know, you saw really on back-to-back plays there, Jay Cutler and Greg Olsen hooking up. You know, one break inside, one break outside there. And these two guys are buddies. They go out together, and Greg Olsen just recently married, and it's a threesome. They go out, you know, he and his wife and Jay Cutler hang out together and have a good time, and you can see that chemistry building on the field here as well.
When we mentioned that they could be looking for an incompletion, the thing is, when a challenge is made, the coach doesn't have to say, hey, look, it wasn't that we felt that the ball had been taken away. They can look at every part of the play. They can look at every part. They can look at whether the ball hit the ground. They can look at whether it was extracted from him before the end of the play. They look at all parts of it.
All right, clearly now he was making that catch going to the ground, so he has to maintain possession all the way to the ground. Appears to have it there. There's a little, even if it touches the ground, it's still okay, and I think control is right there. I don't think there's any question.
Well, we don't see enough in the replay to know for certain that the ball hit the ground. Here's Ockley.
The receiver possessed the ball in the air, and as he went to the ground, it appears his left hand stayed under the ball, and the ball did not hit the ground. The ruling on the field stands as called. It is a completed catch. First down. Timeout is charged to Denver. That's their third and final timeout. Correction, that's their second timeout.
And the indisputable visual evidence is a little bit of a different standard this year. You know, they're going to make these officials really see it. No brainer. Everybody at home would agree that they should change the call. They don't want these little nitpicky calls overturned this year. We have to slow it down and examine every second of it. So unless it is really clear, they're going to stay with the call on the field.
They want to expedite the process if they can. So with 2 minutes to play, now you can only have a booth review at this point. The ball's at the 48-yard line, 1st and 10 for the Chicago Bears. And they line Greg Olsen up in the backfield and then send him in motion out to the right. Hester is in the slot on the left. To the other side he goes, and this time it's Desmond Clark. If Clark plays the conventional tight end spot, they split Olsen out and another penalty.
Yeah, and that was a pretty tough circumstance right there for Matt Forte. He had Elvis Dumervil by himself. I'm sure he came out there and was thinking, what the heck?
There were fouls by both teams on the play, holding offense number 22. There was also illegal contact, defense number 57. The penalty's offset. Replay first down.
Forte on one hold and Hagan on the other side for the hold.
Well, Forte now with Dumervil being an outside linebacker, sort of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You've got to block guys that big if you're a running back now. Do too bad a job, but you can see he wasn't going to take him on above the waist. He said, I'll take my chances at his knees. It's really pretty remarkable to see someone who's played defensive end their entire lives make that conversion. But Elvis has done it about as well as anybody I've seen in a while.
5'11" and 248. 4th round pick in 06 out of Louisville. And timeout taken here.
Timeout Denver. That's their third and final timeout.
Dumervil, you know, I'm thinking about Pace and Dumervil, and Pace saying it's tough to bend down. It's almost like in the NBA you're trying to guard Muggsy Bogues.
That's what it is. And more, you know, these guys are 6'7", 6'8", and it's just hard for those big guys to get down there. And you see it around the league now. We're starting to see some smaller guys at that outside linebacker, and they can dip and turn and put that shoulder almost on the ground, and these big, tall offensive tackles are having a rough time with it. I tell you, it's been a pretty impressive showing tonight, really, by both of these defenses. We came in talking about the offenses, but I think Denver certainly has looked good. The punt return set up the touchdown. But the Chicago Bears now, for the second straight week, this defense is playing really well out there. Of course, Lovie going back over as the full-time defensive coordinator. They did a great job against the Giants, and so far in this one, they've been pretty dominant when they've been out there on the field.
They've limited Denver to only 101 yards. Chicago's gained 133. It's 1st and 10 from the 48-yard line. To the outside, Aroma Shadu making the catch. They keep him in bounds. It's Doomerville going out on the coverage that time to take him down after a gain of 8 yards.
And Aroma Shadu really has an opportunity. He made a great play in the game last week against the Giants on a long ball to set up a touchdown. And they're giving him his opportunity to be the third wide receiver. Not a very experienced wide receiver core for the Bears.
Played with the Colts a couple of years ago. Then he was on the Washington roster. 2nd down and 2. Airing it out to the goal line and knocked away at the last moment. Andre Goodman saving a touchdown on a pass intended for Aroma Shadu.
But that one's on Jay Cutler right there. He moves out of the pocket and then throws back to Aroma Shadu. But if he leads him a little bit more, this is a touchdown. He just underthrows this ball. Really doesn't underthrow it. He threw it behind him. If he let him out towards the goalpost, that's a routine touchdown right there for the Bears. Pretty good play by Goodman.
3rd and 2. And that's caught by Hester. And that will move the chains. The ball to the 29-yard line. Goodman making the tackle. Chicago has 1 timeout left, under a minute to play.
How impressive has this 2-minute drill been? They started on their own 2-yard line and taking it right down the field.
9 plays, 69 yards. Almost all through the air. Cutler has it tipped at the line of scrimmage. That's Kenny Peterson who got a hand on it, and they get a little skirmish. Doomerville is in the middle of it.
I'm going to tell you what, Doomerville with a really late hit, and those offensive linemen are saying, what the heck, you're messing with the franchise. You gave up the franchise. He's our franchise now, and we're not putting up with that. That was a very late hit.
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense, number 92. Half the distance to the goal, automatic 1st down.
Doomerville came in that time with a little alternate move, a little bull rush that time on Orlando Pace. And well after Cutler let that one go, and a little begging on the tail end, but you can see that's not even close.
Cutler got the flag that he wanted. 37 seconds remaining. 1st and 10 now as the ball gets taken down to the 14-yard line. But Doomerville is having his way totally tonight against Orlando Pace. Cutler to Earl Bennett. That gets him inside the 10-yard line. Brian Dawkins makes the tackle. Clock still ticking. Again, Chicago has 1 timeout, and they take it right here with 24 ticks left. It'll be 2nd down and 2.
You know, Jay Cutler, it took him a little while to settle in here, but it's tough to settle in when you're end up having to play against Elvis Doomerville on the outside and constantly watching out for him. But you could tell that he's getting more comfortable. And we watched him last week against the New York Giants, and he really started to begin to feel that offense a little bit. And this is a guy, you know, he's demanding. There's all kinds of stories amongst receivers and offensive linemen that he's not afraid to get in people's face. And sometimes you wonder if maybe that had a little something to do with Josh McDaniels. You wonder if Josh thought he could control him enough to have him run that offense out there instead of a guy like Kyle Orton. There's a lot of things that go underneath the surface when you get a decision like this.
Jay does not work the verbal edges.
No. Right down the middle.
2nd and 2. This is the 11th play of this drive, which began back at the 2-yard line. And that pass is not caught. That's Earl Bennett again. And that'll make it 3rd down and 2 with 19 seconds and no timeouts for Chicago.
Things are getting a little chippy down there between these two teams. Once the Doomerville late hit took place, seems like we've had a little skirmish after every play.
Third and 2. The offensive coordinator, Ron Turner. There he is. He has sent in the play.
Well, no timeouts. Pretty well have to get this one into the end zone.
Or get up there and spike it if they don't get it into the end zone. And that pass is caught for a touchdown by Matt Forte. Cutler spreading it around, has time, patient. Forte gets free as he crosses the goal line, and Cutler hits him to culminate a 98-yard drive.
Now once again, Jay Cutler moving slightly to the right, and Matt Forte with just a little circle route out of the backfield. That little movement bought him just enough time for him to come back and find Forte for the touchdown.
And now they're going to look at it upstairs. It's going to be a booth review. No challenge inside 2 minutes.
Well, he put that ball up in the air about as quickly as he hit the ground. If he bobbled it, he bobbled it quickly.
Goes to the ground.
I won't be able to tell from
control.
there. But you'll see him stick it straight up in the air. It didn't look like much of a bobble.
Nope. Has his hands underneath it.
Yeah, pretty clear, I think.
Pretty easy to determine. The time he was working on the backup linebacker Wesley Woodyard, 59, trying to cover Forte coming out of the backfield. So Forte will have both touchdowns for Chicago, one on the ground, and if this one stands, which it should, one through the air.
This is what the officials like to call a confirmation, and there you see it, but I still believe that it's okay if the ball hits the ground if it's in your possession. In other words, you don't have to completely keep it off the ground, and I think he was clearly in possession. But sometimes on scoring plays and really big plays, they want to absolutely confirm it, so they'll slow down the extra point and take that second look. What a drive, though, by Jay Cutler.
Great drive. And we know everybody's thinking about Orton, and we're trying, obviously, to get the information. But as the years go by, it's like getting, Afghani election results from everybody. So all we're being told it's upper extremity. Yeah, we know that he had a cut finger, and that's all we know, and that's all we're being told right now from downstairs. So unless Andrea wants to break through the barricades.
Yeah. Not going to get much more than that, but I've got to think that for Josh McDaniels, this is a bit of a nightmare right now to watch Jay Cutler go up and down the field, the guy that he traded, and to see his quarterback in the locker room and to see your team struggling to stop Jay Cutler.
The ruling on the field stands as called. Touchdown.
So for Jay Cutler, he is 15 out of 21. That's 144 yards. That drive consumed more than 5 minutes. 12 plays. And Robbie Gould for the extra point. And the kick is good. And go back to take a look, Chris, at what happened to Orton and what took him out of the game.
Adewale Ogunleye is just going to come around the edge there, and you could see the release, the finger trying to snap through and that wrist trying to snap through, and somehow even through the gloves, he got sliced. You know, you could see fingernail or something like that, but you know, if it's almost anywhere else other than that finger, you could say, all right, put some tape on it and you're all right. But that finger is really the key one. It's the ultimate release point and where that final push comes from for a quarterback.
.13 seconds remaining. So we're going to see, in all likelihood, the backup quarterback, the rookie out of Fresno State, Tom Brandstater, but his only action, unless we have a pretty good run back, figures to be a kneel down to end the first half, and then assuming Orton can't make it back for the second half, we'll see him. We'll see Ingle Martin, who they picked up as well, and Chris mentioned before that Chris Sims had come over as the backup, but he hurt his ankle last week in Seattle, and he's out. Line drive, 5-yard line. That's Willis. Matthew Willis brings it back out to the 35-yard line, and that's going to take us down to what should be a kneel down to end the first half.
Brandstater coming in, and it was an inauspicious debut for him last week. He had, I think, was 1 for 2 for 2 yards and 4 sacks, and looked a little out of his element, but he said he got a chance to go back and watch the film and take a deep breath, and feels like he'll be better this week.
Well, they will run a play. It'll be a simple running play right through the middle. It's Buckhalter, and that will take us to the end of the first half. So Cutler with a nice first half. Chicago with a 98-yard drive at the end of the half, and Chicago leads 17-3. Bob Costas with Mike Tomlin coming up at the half. A look at some Sunday Night Football rivalries on the Toyota Halftime Show next. Halftime in Denver at the half. The Chicago Bears leading the Denver Broncos. The score is 17-3. 2 years ago, Bill Cowher retired in Pittsburgh, and Mike Tomlin came in, and even football fans who follow the sport pretty closely went, who? Well, he guided them to the playoffs in his first season, and last year, of course, he won the Super Bowl, and nobody would be surprised if he did it again this year, as Pittsburgh will be one of the favorites. Earlier in the week, Bob Costas went to Pittsburgh and sat down with Mike Tomlin.
Mike, you were on John Gruden's staff when the Bucs won the Super Bowl and then kind of fell flat the year after. Have you thought about that experience and tried to apply any of its lessons to this year's Steelers?
I really have. I think it's human nature to recall some of your life's lessons. For me, as I go about my day-to-day things, some of the pitfalls that we encountered, I'm cognizant of.
What were some of those pitfalls?
Maybe egos became an issue. I do remember a sense that we couldn't wait to show what we were capable of, as opposed to just enjoying the routine, the mundane daily tasks that comes with building a football team.
There's a knee, and Super Bowl 43 is history.
All 22 of your projected starters played in the Super Bowl this past February. 20 of the 22 started. All your assistant coaches are back. The front office is essentially unchanged. In this era in the NFL, that's rare.
It is, but I think there's a lot of things that go on in Pittsburgh, PA, or with the Steelers specifically, that doesn't subscribe to some of the things that goes on in today's NFL. Free agency for us is signing the guys that we want back on our football team. There's a lot of old school philosophies and things that permeate down from Dan Rooney that make business here a little different than a lot of places.
How much consideration was given to signing Michael Vick by the Steelers?
You know, I know Mike personally, so my relationship with him and interest in his case is more than business, it's personal. But on a professional level, given some of the things that my quarterback was going through, I didn't think it was the appropriate time to add another quarterback to the mix. he's going through somewhat of a trying time with a civil allegation or case against him. I didn't want to do anything that was less than supportive to Ben.
So had the civil suit not arisen, you might have considered being in the running for Michael Vick.
Sure, but, that's a big if.
You're at the forefront of a group of young coaches in the league. Yourself, John Harbaugh, Raheem Morris, Josh McDaniels. Is this coincidence, or do you see a trend? Guys in their 30s, guys who haven't been head coaches before, aren't recycled guys, getting big jobs?
I'm kind of a realist, man. I buy into the fact that we're in tough economic times and we're cheap labor.
Makes sense. Yeah, because some of the established guys who've been around a while, they're $5 million guys or more.
This league kind of moves in cycles, and I think over the course of time that maybe the outcome of those investments didn't yield different results. So I think that they're trying something new.
And in only his second year, Mike Tomlin has won the Super Bowl.
You often hear people say the NFL is a copycat league. Trends catch on quickly. How does it make you feel when you hear people say, we're looking for the next Mike Tomlin, when 3 years ago, most people didn't know who Mike Tomlin was?
I don't know if I find it as funny as maybe my wife finds it, you know what I mean? But no, it's a compliment. I take it as such. But at the same time, I'm not worried about a reputation or a legacy. I'm just trying to win football games. I'm just enjoying living in the now, working with the people that I work with, and I'll worry about those kind of things one day when I'm kicking my feet up, hopefully, and watching my kids do whatever it is they do.
Classic line, cheap labor. Well, the Steelers have gotten their money's worth, and we'll see Mike begin his third year as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers when we open up the 2009 NFL season a week from Thursday night. That'll be September the 10th in Pittsburgh as the Pittsburgh Steelers host the Tennessee Titans. And when we come back, a look at some of the other rivalries we'll look ahead to seeing on Sunday night during the 09 campaign. And those some of the outstanding matchups we'll have for you on Sunday Night Football this fall. Right now, halftime in Denver. Coming up in the second half, Bears quarterback Jay Cutler will talk with Andrea Kramer. Football Night in America's Rodney Harrison will join us here in the booth. The second half coming right up.
This has been the Toyota Halftime Show, brought to you by Toyota. Moving forward.
Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Back we come to start the third quarter in Denver. 17-3 to Chicago on top. And Teddy Bruschi, the linebacker for the New England Patriots. And you recall Teddy suffered a stroke a few seasons ago and made a great comeback and was in the Patriots camp. And he will announce tomorrow that he is retiring from the National Football League. So that's a very stellar 13-year career for the linebacker for the Patriots. Rodney Harrison, of course, is also retired, will be part of our Football Night in America crew. And we're going to bring Rodney into the booth at some point in the second half. Talk about a number of things. Matt Prater to kick off. Chicago will get the ball. We'll find out about Orton in a second as we'll go right to Andrea. As the kick now comes down to the goal line. It's fielded there by Garrett Wolf. And Garrett Wolf brings it back out to the 22-yard line. The flag is down. We've had a ton of them in the game.
During the return, holding by the receiving team, number 64. Half the distance to the goal from that spot. First down.
And now to Andrea.
All right, Josh McDaniels looked me in the eye and assured me that Kyle Orton's finger is not broken. It is not a compound fracture. He said they need more tests. They are not sure, but he does not think it is that serious. Needless to say, he is done for the evening. He said it will be Brand Stater the rest of the way. Ingle Martin signed on Wednesday, simply not ready. As for Jay Cutler, he is finished for the evening, as is Matt Forte. Lovie Smith pleased with the way Cutler handled the pressure on the field, off the field, especially with the end of the drive, the 98-yard drive at the end of the half.
All right, thank you, Andrew. That means Caleb Haney is the new quarterback, and he is in the game. Devin Aroma-Shadoux making the catch here. And for Haney, he played up the interstate at Colorado State for 4 seasons, and those are the numbers he put up there. So a kid who played in Colorado, he's the backup right now. and he has yet to throw a pass in a regular NFL game. Kevin Jones is the running back. And here's Jones, who spells Forte. He gets taken down at the 10-yard line. So Jay Cutler got off to a slow start tonight. A lot of pressure was put on him, but when it was all said and done, he has to be pretty happy.
Yeah, I thought he looked uncomfortable, and then he found his favorite target in his good buddy Greg Olsen a couple of times, and it seemed to jumpstart this drive. And then he just started moving around. And I tell you, Al, that's what I think makes for a great quarterback. The guy obviously has a strong arm. He's a great leader. But that movement within the pocket, you know, that's something that you just either you have or you don't have. And Kyle Orton's not really that kind of guy. And it still kind of boggles my mind a little bit that Jay Cutler is no longer a Denver Bronco.
It's Garrett Wolf. He stopped shy of a first down. I mean, it's a cliche, but what you're talking about is what everybody refers to as pocket presence. Looking straight ahead, keeping your eye on the target, and feeling where the pressure's coming from.
Well, and I think that's right. And Tom Brady is not a runner. You know, he's just not. He's not a very fast guy. But Tom Brady in the pocket has those subtle little moves that just buy a little bit more time to allow his receivers to work down the field. And that's what Cutler's showing as well. And more than that, we saw him run last week against the Giants. We've seen him be effective on the bootlegs. Very complete quarterback. I think they're spoiled. They're used to having franchise quarterbacks here in Denver, and maybe they think they can grow another one on a tree.
Maynard. And that's a good kick because it pins Alphonso Smith at the sideline. And Denver will take over there. Early third quarter, 17-3, Chicago. Not too light. The difference is drinkability.
Of course.
Where'd the guy get that shirt?
Was he in our production meeting?
Yeah. From the 37-yard line on first down now. This is Peyton Hillis, and you've got Tom Brandstater in the game, the rookie out of Fresno State.
Well, I tell you, the Chicago Bears tonight have just decided they're going to attack all night long. Just continued pressure up the middle. And it has really given the Denver Broncos problems. You typically see those two inside linebackers, Briggs and Urlacher, they'll play up there right next to the center and create some havoc. And as long as the Broncos haven't been able to handle it, they just keep doing it.
And it's a lot easier to do right now with a rookie quarterback. And there's Marcus Harrison, makes the tackle that time on Peyton Hillis.
Well, not a lot of quarterback depth around here. I mean, it gets a little scary. You know, don't you feel like, though, that the Denver Broncos were just impatient with Jay Cutler? I mean, who cares if he was upset? You know, I mean, my answer back to him would have been, hey, you can retire from football if you want, but I will never trade you anywhere. You are going to retire a Denver Bronco or nowhere.
In many ways, it was stunning. The pass is incomplete, and we've detailed it. We showed you the timeline. We'll show you a letter to the fans from Pat Bowlen a little earlier on. But, yeah, when you have a guy like that, it was so bizarre because he came in for a meeting with Pat Bowlen and Josh McDaniels. It didn't go well, demanded to be traded. And then, again, it's a matter of which side you talk to as to calls not being returned. But I can't think of a parallel situation in sports, certainly in recent times, in any sport.
Well, I would have done what they did with Brandon Marshall. If you have to, suspend him, that's fine, but I'm not going to trade him.
And that punt will bounce at the 1-yard line and go out of bounds. And that's Britton Colquitt of the Colquitt Kickers. His father, his brother, his cousin have all been punters. A 58-yard punt that goes out of bounds at the 2-yard line. Talked about the letter that Pat Bowlen sent to the fans. And in effect, there is one of the things that we've highlighted, assuring the fans repeated attempts have been made to reach out to Jay. His unwillingness to speak in the last 12 days. At the same time, his agent clearly stating to us that Jay wanted to be traded, proved that he didn't want to be a Denver Bronco. And the pass is incomplete at the feet of McKee. I'll tell you the thing that surprised me the most, Chris, is that Josh McDaniels, to go back to what I said at the top, you got a brand new, young coach, fortunate to have an opportunity, which he got, and he was going to get one at a certain point. You think he would come in, not tiptoeing necessarily, but if you're going to think about trading a franchise quarterback, I would think you would have constant communication with your owner before it got out.
Yeah, and you've got to believe, too, that Josh came in so confident in this system. Matt Castle, after Tom Brady, came in and did a great job of it. But over the years, we've seen there are great systems out there, but great players always trump great systems. When you get one of those guys, it's so hard to get one. You don't just turn and give them away. I mean, so you get 2 position players and 2 number 1 draft picks, whatever. It is not even close to what a franchise quarterback is, unless they just didn't believe that he was a franchise quarterback.
Well, the scheme trumped talent, or vice versa. I think you can make an argument on either side here, and that pass is thrown up by Haney and caught by Brandon Rideau. But incomplete now, they say. Incomplete is, it looked like Rideau was going to come down with it. He got hit by Dawkins, that broken hand and cast notwithstanding.
Boy, they couldn't wait to get Brian Dawkins on the field. There's Champ on the outside, a little 2-man coverage. But then you end up with the enforcer coming over. And how many times in Philadelphia did we see Brian Dawkins do that? He is a madman. He was worried about controlling his emotions in this preseason game, and you never hear that from a veteran.
When you get covered by Champ Bailey and Brian Dawkins together, you are covered.
Well, you can tell it's a young quarterback that made that throw.
Here's Maynard at punt, fielded at the 49-yard line. What else is new? In comes the laundry, and Alphonso Smith takes it back to the 50-yard line. And it's Rasheed Davis who's in the middle of the action. A little less than 5 minutes
during the
return.
The illegal block in the back by the receiving team, number 21. 10-yard penalty from that spot. Denver keeps the ball, first down.
10:13 remaining in the third quarter, 17-3 Chicago. Denver Broncos back-to-back winning the world championship in 97 and in 98. Mike Shanahan, the head coach, John Elway's final 2 seasons as he rode off into the Rocky Mountain sunset with the Lombardi Trophy, 2 of them in tow.
False start offense, number 62, 5-yard penalty. It's still first down.
Casey Wigman's still in the game. That first-string offensive line is in with Brandstater at quarterback.
All right, Al, give me the percentage chance, if Mike Shanahan's still the coach, that Jay Cutler is now playing for Chicago.
0.
0.00.
Off the board at the 34-yard line. Buckhalter takes the pitch, and Buckhalter to the outside, and even after the penalty made it a 1st and 15. Ryan Clady provides the escort for him, and it's a 21-yard gallop to move the chains.
Pretty good job on the outside by Daniel Graham, who is the blocking tight end for the Denver Broncos. He's going to come in and just get peeled down on the outside defensive end, Alex Brown, and that's exactly what sprung him there. Good block inside by Peyton Hillis as well on Urlacher, and that's the best play of the night so far for the Denver Broncos.
Brandstater, a little toss to the outside. Hillis again, and Hillis to the 29-yard line. And that time it's Ryan Harris. So they run pretty much the same play, except for the right tackle leading the way.
Graham once again, and anytime you see him in the ball game, think New England Patriots with their blocking tight ends on the outside, and then the young tackle Ryan Harris looping out around. But that's the reason they have Daniel Graham here, to make those kinds of blocks. Same offense you see on the outside. Then on the outside, it's Brandon Lloyd with a great block as well. That's how you get big runs.
28-yard line. A little room through the middle for a 4-yard gain for Carell Buckwalter.
Well, we talked about Peyton Hillis and how multifaceted he is. Watch the fullback now. Peyton Hillis, 22, going to come in there and make this block and spring his buddy. It's pretty amazing when you see a guy go from tailback one play to fullback the next to receiver the next. Very talented guy.
8.5 to go in the third. Chicago up by 2 touchdowns. Denver trying to cut into the margin on 2nd down and 6. Hillis will set up a 3rd down and 1 and another penalty. 12 accepted penalties in the game. 8 of them have been against the Denver Broncos.
Holding, offense number 78, 10-yard penalty, repeat 2nd down.
It's Clady again. So Clady coming off that fabulous rookie season. Chris mentioned 3rd in the balloting. You're looking at the longtime assistant coach here, Rick Dennison, and it was Clady who's been flagged a 3rd time.
Well, sometimes when they try and put those linemen in motion, and that time he was pulling around trying to get up in the hole, but somebody got up on him and he just grabbed hold. I think it almost caught him off guard and he just reacted. This is a very good offensive line, though. Don't underestimate these guys. That's the heart and soul of this team right now.
Alert! Alert! 2nd and 16. Briggs is there, and the crowd wants a flag for a late hit, and they do get one now as Buckhalter gets forced out of bounds.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 96. Threw the quarterback down with his full body weight on the quarterback, which by rule is roughing the passer. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
So it wasn't Briggs, it was Alex Brown coming off the edge, coming in there and knocking him to the turf.
And Al, I think this is a direct result of what happened to Tom Brady. When he got drilled and pushed to the ground by Albert Haynesworth and came away injured, I'm sure that the league now is trying to say, listen, you cannot drive these guys into the ground. Alex Brown, I don't think really drove him into the ground the way that Haynesworth did, but you know they're watching for that right now.
I'm with you. Rolling right. I'm not sure what a guy is supposed to do. I mean, here comes Brown. He's trying to get there. Full head of steam. I mean, what's he supposed to do? He can't stop on a dime. And once he got on top of him, what was he supposed to do? Do a push-up?
Yeah, I think that it really should be reserved for more when they grab, lift, and drive down into the ground. This, to me, looked like an opportunity for a sack, and I don't see any kind of a driving into the ground here. I don't think that one's really a foul, or maybe it is, and, you know, what the heck, we're going to protect the quarterbacks at all costs, so maybe that's what they're trying to do.
2nd and 10, 16-yard line. Buckhalter can't pick his way through all of that white shirt traffic. Lance Briggs making the tackle, so that Chicago D first unit staying in there.
They've had a good night tonight. They really have. And, you know, this is a defense, a proud defense that I think has been embarrassed a little bit over the last couple of years. And it caused Lovie Smith to go over and start making the defensive calls again. They didn't finish in the top 20 in the last couple of years. And, you know, this is supposed to be the strength of this football team, but they are healthier now than they've been in a while. And you start with Brian Urlacher. He had a couple of tough years, did not perform all that well, but he's healthier than he's been.
3rd and 11. Brandstater throwing, and that pass is caught inside the 1-yard line by Brandon Lloyd, who loses his helmet but holds on to the football. What a play.
Well, Brandon Lloyd fighting for a job. He's been around to multiple teams now in the NFL. He's going to make the break and come back and just stick his hands out. And for the Chicago Bears, if they have a weakness right now on defense, it is clearly at the cornerback and defensive backfield spot. Tremaine McBride getting a chance because of injuries to Zachary Bowman, Charles Tillman, Danielle Manning. Those guys have to get healthy if the Bears are going to compete.
And Hillis can't get into the end zone because that's Urlacher saying, none on my watch. 2nd and goal.
Well, Lance Briggs is really the guy that set this one up. He's going to come in and attack the center here, Casey Wigman, and get him pushed back into the pile. And then here comes everybody else through the hole. Essentially, if you can make some penetration and get play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, there's too much speed on this Bears front seven to hold them all out.
2nd and goal. Hillis, and he's going to get in for the touchdown. And that's Spencer Larson, who started a game last year both on offense and defense, who provides the block to get him in. So a 61-yard drive, 9 plays, 6 runs, 3 passes, and the Broncos get into the end zone for the first time in the game.
Oh, watch Daniel Graham on the end of the line of scrimmage this time, along with Clady. This double team block just going to push that in back into the end zone. Nice clean edge and a good run by Hillis.
Prater tacks on the extra point. So Brandstater, the 6th-round rookie out of Fresno State, guides the team down the field to get Denver within 7.
I'm a little excited about that, to get a chance. I can't always stay up till 11:30 now. I'm getting a little old, but 10 o'clock, I could definitely stay up and watch a few things on that show now. He's good.
You can't fool it. Those crickets are chirping in Kentucky, and you're going to bed about 9:30, right?
That's right.
Come on.
I hate to admit it, but I do.
But Holly's up.
Yeah.
Johnny Knox will down that one in the end zone for a touchback. And the Bears will take over at the 20-yard line. 5:21 remaining, 3rd quarter. Bears 17-10. Go on top, 17-10 on the 68-degree night at Invesco Field at Mile High. Sorry, say time really goes. We did the first game in here in 2001, 9th season already for this facility, built in the across the parking lot.
False start offense, number 78. 5-yard penalty. It's first down.
Kevin Schaefer, the old Mile High, right across the parking lot. Long gone. 1st and 15. Jay Cutler.
I bet you he's going, shoo.
Yeah.
Glad this one's over. You know, wouldn't you think that about him? Even though he gets the same reception on the road everywhere, but something personal about this one.
Here's Garrett Wolf. He's a little laconic, too. That's what he thinks, hey, you know, no big deal. We were talking about Mike Shanahan before. Take a look at this through the Shanahan era. 95 through 08, 4th best record, won 2 Super Bowls. And then, but just 1 postseason win since 98. 1st in yards over that span. His team's 3rd in points. And, of course, Mike earned the moniker Mastermind years ago for his offensive genius, as Brandon Rideau gets taken down. Mike's still living here in Denver. I was talking to him recently, and he made the rounds. He went to training camp. He went to Pittsburgh, and Mike Tomlin had him as his guest, and Bill Belichick had him in New England. He went down to the University of Florida, where he was your offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Of course, he had Terrell Davis here for 7 of those seasons. And, you know, Mike just content and enjoying, he says, watching a lot of football and doing the things that he never had a chance to do. And I would think that the odds are pretty strong that at some point next season, Mike Shanahan will be roaming a professional sideline. That pass is incomplete. Intended for Derek Kinder. It'll be 4th down and 6, so it's a 3 and out for the Denver defense. So Mike, you know, it's like Bill Cowher. It'll be like John Gruden as well. At the end of the season, there are going to be 6, 7, 8 changes, maybe more. And, of course, on every list will be the names of those 3.
Yeah, but Mike Shanahan, I think, has made it pretty clear he definitely wants back in. And I've got to think he's going to have his choice of jobs. That's about as good a resume as you're going to come up with.
Agreed. Maynard's punt, 29-yard line. Alfonso Smith to run it out of bounds. And when we come back, Andrea Kramer will be speaking with the always candid JC when we come back.
Welcome to the Now Network. Right now, 5 co-workers are working from the road using a MiFi, a mobile hotspot that provides up to 5 shared Wi-Fi connections.
Show premieres September 14th.
Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Denver is the site. 3:54 remaining, third quarter. From the 44-yard line, the Broncos begin this drive, and Buckhalter's still in the game. Stop for no gain. To the field, Andrea with Jay Cutler. Andrea.
Thank you very much, Al. So, what was it like tonight compared to what you were expecting?
Similar, you know. I mean, I thought it was going to be like this. They got good fans here. A lot of boos. They got pretty loud there at one point, so it was what we kind of prepared for.
You had a bit of a, see, yeah, there you go. You cued them. Now the signs are coming out too. Now, a bit of a slow start, but especially on that 98-yard drive, got into rhythm. But how was the extracurricular activity out there, especially the roughing the passer?
You know a lot of those guys out there, so a little bit of talking back and forth. But we were pinned back early, and I just told the guys, just hang in there. Whenever we get some better field position, we'll start rolling.
Chicago Bears have a very storied history as a franchise, but not necessarily so from the quarterback position. But Lovie Smith said, this is the player we've been waiting for. What are those expectations like for you?
They're high. I mean, I knew coming into this situation they were going to be high. Anytime an organization gives up what they gave up to get me, the expectations are going to be high. And I mean, I think offensively, we're up to the task. The guys feel good about it. I think we're heading in the right direction for the Green Bay week. Got to tone some stuff up and tweak some things, but we're getting there.
And obviously the third game is when you always want to see the personnel decisions made. Where are you with your wide receivers at this point?
We're heading in the right direction. I don't think we still know exactly who we're going to get and who we're going to make the cuts with. The guys upstairs are going to make some great calls. I feel good about all of them right now.
Right now, as for Brandon Marshall, you were the guy who you just smile at the main. Why do you smile when I even mention his name?
Because it's it's so crazy. I think right now for that guy of what he's gone through, in the last couple of years. I mean, I'd just like to see him get out in the field and start playing.
But you were the guy who administered the tough love, so to speak. You talked to him recently. What advice do you have for him?
Brandon, I haven't talked to him recently. I'm not sure what he's doing. I know he's recently suspended. He's such a talent. He's such a good guy. Kind of off the field. I mean, I just want to see him get back out there and start playing again, and because he's good for the game. He's excited for the game, so we'll see what happens. You never know, though.
Now, look, obviously your return here was the main storyline, and the trade, forcing your way out of Denver. What did you take from this experience? What did you learn from the whole thing?
It's a business, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. There's coaching changes, there's player changes every day, and you just have to stay in the game, and wherever you land, you land. And I'm happy I'm in Chicago. We got a great thing going right now. We just need to keep heading that way.
Jay, we'll look forward to seeing you in Green Bay Week 1. Thanks very much.
All right, Andrew, just a little house cleaning here, because while you were talking to Jay, Marcus Freeman, a fifth-round draft choice rookie out of Ohio State, intercepted that pass from Brandstater, which was deflected off Eddie Royal's hands. I'm sure Marcus's family was sitting there going, I can't believe you're interviewing Cutler and our son just intercepted a pass. So we got to give him his due. And then it's a 3-and-out and a fourth-down punt coming up here. And we'll talk about Brandon Marshall as well when we come back. The video that was taken of him earlier in the week leading to the suspension. So Brad Maynard has to reach for the snap, and then on a short field angles one toward the sideline, and not a very good kick at all. They'll spot it at the 24-yard line. This was Marshall, who of course had a lot of issues during the offseason. He was acquitted on a battery charge in Atlanta, came to camp, admitted he didn't know the playbook. They left him off the roster on the trip to Seattle, didn't take him there. And here he was the other day, like he was playing volleyball, and in effect acting, kind of clownish. Josh McDaniels didn't even see a lot of what you just saw until the video appeared, and that's when he brought him in and said, you're out for the rest of preseason.
Well, I would tell Brandon Marshall the same things I would tell my own children, and that is grow up. You've been handed the golden ticket. You have unbelievable talent. You should be making millions of dollars for years to come in the NFL. And yet, because of some of the domestic disputes, the NFL is borderline ready to suspend him. His teammates were clearly upset. The organization is upset. And sometimes guys take it for granted. You know, the NFL can live without you, believe me, no matter who you are. And the reason that nobody is trading for him is because of the exact behavior that we saw. So the message is pretty simple from the league, from the Broncos, from his teammates. That's grow up.
That was Darius Walker taking the pitch. And again, you reap what you sow in terms of, you know, the people you choose to put into your life. And I mean, if Michael Vick didn't prove that, and how in the world did Michael Vick, among other things, wind up $20 million in debt? Was anybody paying attention to anything he was doing?
You know, these are young guys, and a lot of times they don't know how to handle the money, and they see, you know, Jay Cutler got traded, you know, because he acted up a little bit, and I'm sure that, you know, it had something to do with what Brandon Marshall was trying to do to force the trade out. But Brandon Marshall's in a different position. He's been suspended, and he's on the brink with the NFL as we speak.
And here's Brandstater, and that pass is caught by Richard Quinn, a rookie out of North Carolina, trying to win a job, and that'll take us to the end of the third quarter. Rodney Harrison will pay us a visit in the booth in the fourth. End of 3, 17-10 Chicago. Sunday Night Football from Denver. Back after these messages. Andrea Kramer, 17-10. The Chicago Bears leading the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos have the ball at the Chicago 47 with Tom Brandstater in at quarterback. Jay Cutler, we heard him with Andrea moments ago talking about his night. 15 out of 21 for 144. And Rodney Harrison is waiting in the on-deck circle. This is Darius Walker. Rodney Harrison, who's retiring now after 15 seasons in the NFL, 9 with San Diego and 6 with New England, a couple of Super Bowl rings, played in 3 Super Bowls, joins the Football Night in America cast beginning the first Sunday. We welcome you. You notice when they promoted you at the end of the third quarter, the song they played was Bad to the Bone.
I don't know why I get this reputation. You said a couple Super Bowl rings. There's also a couple knee surgeries as well.
Right, and that was that part of why you decided that it was time?
Yeah, I wanted to walk the next 30 years.
I don't blame you. Talk about, of course, you know, you played under Bill Belichick, and you know so many of the players and coaches, obviously, so including Josh McDaniels. You were on the other side of the ball, but what was your feeling when you know, McDaniels gets the job, and then all of a sudden you get the crazy situation, which turns out to be, you know, Jay Cutler eventually getting traded to Chicago? What were your thoughts?
Well, the thing that I didn't understand was Josh was always an open-minded coach. He was easy, very easy to approach. He was a guy that worked with the special teams. He worked as a defense assistant for 3 years, as well as defensive back. So an easygoing guy, very passionate, and I just didn't understand why Jay Cutler and him would have any conflict.
So you're in that same position as a coach. What do you do? What do you think that Bill Belichick does? If all of a sudden Tom Brady, who would never do it, but if he did it, what do? You just go in and you go, Tom, relax. What's the matter with you? You know, you're going to be the quarterback here. I'm not trading you anywhere, right?
Well, I just think that Josh, you know, he's done a lot of good things, but this is probably the one biggest mistake as a head coach that he's made, trading a franchise-type quarterback and Jay Cutler away. You know, unfortunately for him, his career as a head coach will be defined by this decision.
Talk about facing somebody like Cutler. What kind of problems does he present for a secondary?
Well, the problem, going into the game, we figured, you know, he can make all the throws. He can throw the ball 70 yards down the field. And the one thing about Jay, he's so athletic, and people don't give him enough credit for his athletic ability. He can move outside the pocket. He can make all the throws. And as you watch the game tonight, you can see that he made a lot of terrific throws, and he's a terrific quarterback.
Ball at the 19-yard line after the personal foul. Denver trying to move in for a tying score here as Brandstater throws to the sideline, and that is not caught inbounds. And one official checks with the other as Kenny McKinley could not bring it down inbounds. So Rodney, when it came down to it, it was McDaniels wanted Castle more than he wanted Cutler. Explain that.
Well, I mean, I can't really explain that, but I don't understand how you can want a career backup, and that's no offense to Matt Castle, because I love the guy, compared to Jay Cutler, who's a franchise quarterback, went to the Pro Bowl, threw over 4,000 yards, just a terrific player. I just don't understand where it broke down.
And you're going to have a challenge here. They're going to take a look at that last call. as McDaniels will make the call, issue the challenge. You can laugh in preseason. 2 weeks from now, you won't be able to laugh. Back in a minute.
Most major mobile devices. Sign up now at sports.yahoo.com.
Kenny McKinley's a fifth-round draft choice out of South Carolina. Rookie, and he receives this pass, but you'll see his foot is on the chalk as the ball gets there, so he's already got that 1 foot out of bounds. Goes to the ground, maintaining possession, but the first thing they're going to look at is where is the foot, and there it is as the ball comes into him on the chalk. So I think it will not be overturned.
I'm telling you, Mike Pereira's retiring this year. My man might walk right into that chair. Now I could see you sitting up there at Park Avenue and sort of dictating the rules around the league.
Yeah. I'll tell you where they'd have to move that office, and you know where it is.
Just outside of Bel Air Country Club.
How'd you guess?
The receiver's left foot was on the sideline, out of bounds. The edge of his shoe was out of bounds when he caught the ball. Therefore, the ruling on the field stands as called. The pass was incomplete. Denver is charged with their first timeout.
Denver fans say, come on, Eddie, we thought you loved us unconditionally. So a timeout charge to Denver. It'll be second down and 10 now at the 19. We're talking to Rodney Harrison about the McDaniels and Cutler move. I mean, do egos come into play here? Is it McDaniels saying scheme is more important than talent?
I think anytime you deal with grown men and you deal with testosterone, egos come into play. It's just he wanted his man. He wanted Matt Castle to come in. It's unfortunate that it had to come down to this point, but you know, he's got to deal with the cards that's been dealt to him.
And that's a turnover in Chicago. Forcing the turnover is Darius Walker. Fumbles, and Matt Aina, who was just picked up. Number 75 with the turnover, something that Lovie Smith's teams have been noted for since Lovie took over 5 seasons ago.
Hello, I'm Mac.
Denver Broncos just coughed up the football on the fumble, and so Chicago now 1st and 10 with 13:06 to play. Adrian Peterson, no, not the Adrian Peterson, the other Adrian Peterson is the running back. Caleb Haney has taken over for Cutler, and this is the other Peterson taking the ball out to the 28-yard line. So Rodney, let's go back to Tom Brady, and of course you know him so well, and you watched him especially in that Cincinnati preseason game take a couple of licks, and what did you think at that point?
I just felt like it was very important for Tom, coming off the same injury that I had a few years ago, to get hit, to gain that confidence, get sacked, and to be able to stand in the pocket and take that, knowing that each and every week his knee is going to get stronger, because you initially have that fear of your knee tearing again, and I think it's just huge for Tom to be able to go through that.
You know, Carson Palmer in Cincinnati went through basically the same injury, somebody lunging at his knee and getting torn up. And you saw him the next season. Of course, he had a much shorter period of time to get healthy because he got hurt in a playoff game. But you could see him the next season when people fell around his knees. You can't help it. You know, you've been through that much rehab. You're looking down, and it makes you uncomfortable. And for a quarterback, especially when there's action around his feet, it's going to be a tough part of the equation for Tom this year.
Yeah, I think that's human nature to have that fear.
And that's Haney airing it out and hitting Johnny Knox, rookie 5th-round draft choice, who's trying to win a spot on the team for a gain of 43 yards.
And he's working against another rookie, Alphonso Smith, a high draft pick for the Denver Broncos. And I tell you what, this just might make the football team for Johnny Knox. We were at practice the other day, and they had a 2-minute drill. This is their speed guy. On the first play of the 2-minute drill, Caleb Haney threw one over the top. It's the shortest 2-minute drill I ever saw. Touchdown, and here he is again. I think they're going to get some action for this young guy.
That's insult to injury for a Denver fan, and I'll tell you why in a second. The ball is at the 29, and Haney now throws, and that's incomplete. Johnny Knox is a guy who was part of the trade. So not only did they get Cutler, they got that draft choice. That turned into Johnny Knox. And, of course, you got Orton and all of the other draft choices going the other way. But there's your throw in, Johnny Knox.
That's pretty good, though, to get – and they're so so little experience on this Chicago Bears receiving corps. I mean, they're really sort of fishing for guys out there. And originally they kind of said to us, I don't know if Johnny Knox and Joaquin Iglesias, the 2 draft picks, are really ready or not. But certainly looked like it on that play.
That's Adrian Peterson looking like the other Adrian Peterson for a first down. Rodney back to Brady for a second. We saw him take the hits in the Cincinnati game. And, of course, the big hit came the other night when Albert Haynesworth jumped on him after he had thrown a couple of touchdown passes earlier in the game to Randy Moss. He looked like he was in midseason form. And then the word out of New England is Bill Belichick said they took him out of the game not because he was hurt, but it was time to take him out of the game, and there's Haynesworth falling on him.
Well, that's a big man falling on you. Tom looked terrific the whole entire game, and precautionary reason, the franchise quarterback, you got to keep him out of the game.
And there's Adrian Peterson going in for a touchdown. So the Chicago Bears cash in after the turnover, recover the fumble, quickly move downfield. That was 79 yards rapidly. 6 plays, 4 rushes, and it took them only 2:17.
Well, anytime you see the offensive line get up on the linebackers like this, there's going to be a chance. Spencer Larson, who also plays some offense, just basically got driven out of the hole. And you have to be kind of happy for an Adrian Peterson, a guy that's been around for a long time, fighting desperately to make this football team because of some of the other running backs. But that was an impressive drive for him.
Gold for the extra point. 4 carries from Peterson, a total of 36 yards. Another look right now as that makes the score 24-10. Jay Cutler pleased with his night. One more preseason game to go for Chicago. And it's off to the opener at Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. First Sunday of the season. Kickoff here. Taken at the goal line. This is Matthew Willis, second-year player from UCLA. Bringing it back up to the 27-yard line. And we've had a flag on almost every run back tonight, so why not another one?
You know, and we do have that new rule.
During the return holding, offense number 60, 10-yard penalty. Denver keeps the ball, first down.
You're not allowed to make that 4-man wedge anymore. Maybe it's coming into play.
Back we come to Denver. The clouds have dissipated. Look at close to a full moon. Ball at the 12-yard line for the Denver Broncos with 10:42 to play in the fourth quarter. And Brand Stater, the Fresno State rookie, dumps it off to Darius Walker. The Patriots, your old team, Rodney, announcing that they're going to make an announcement tomorrow and have a press conference about a very important player. They don't say who it is. It's not going to be about Tom Brady and whether he's injured or not. They've already, I think, addressed that. You've already retired. So it has to be about Teddy Bruschi, who we just talked about, and your thoughts on Teddy announcing his retirement tomorrow.
A terrific football player, a great friend of mine, a guy, one of the hardest working guys that I've ever been around, a tremendous leader in that locker room, a guy that was an integral part of that 2003-2004 Super Bowl run that we had.
I tell you what, I'll remember I called the Super Bowl in Jacksonville against Philadelphia, and before the game, Teddy Bruschi, of course, I'm a nervous wreck, and I'm only announcing the game, but he's down there, and he had his jersey on, but he had his small children who looked to be, 2-3 years old, and he was just lying on his back, and the kids were bouncing all over him, and he was a dad.
But that's Bruschi. That's his personality. That's his attitude. Nothing really gets him down. Even 3 years ago or 4 years ago when he had that heart attack, he never was down. I mean, he was always, just enthusiastic, always positive, and that's Teddy Bruschi for you. I wish him the best.
3rd and 5. And that pass is caught. That's a nice catch by McKinley, who hauled one in before, but he was out of bounds. And that'll be a first down.
We talk so much here tonight about the switch over the Denver Broncos are making with their defensive front to a 3-4, but they certainly don't have the players up front that the New England Patriots have, and that's really what makes this defense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the nose tackle, which Vince Wilfork, he's a guy that doesn't get much attention, but he's the most integral part of this defense. He's responsible for 2 gapping. He's responsible for both gaps, and if he doesn't make it work, that defense won't have any success.
And you could even see on that play right there, those guards can't get up on that linebacker because of him.
And there's Brand Stater to his new best friend, McKinley, airing one out deep downfield inside the 15 to the 13-yard line. for the kid who didn't figure to see very much action tonight until Orton went out and Sims got hurt last week, and here he is, and he's lighting it up a little bit.
Good job here by McKinley, making the outside move to set up the corner and then breaking hard back to the inside to get the big completion. I tell you, McKinley's done a nice job during this exhibition season. He came in, tied with Eddie Royal with 90 yards receiving and putting on a show out there tonight.
Chris, if you look at the cornerback, he did a terrible job of keeping his eye on the receiver. He actually looked in the backfield, which created separation.
From the 14-yard line under the gun, here's the inside handoff. A little tough running for Darius Walker. We're gonna put you right to work.
Like
we know you'll be in the studio, Rodney.
Here we go, baby.
Give this a shot now. We're gonna go back and look at the defensive back play here.
Well, he's backpedaling right now, and he's trying to keep outside leverage. The receiver stems him outside. He turns and he takes a peek in the backfield. That's a no-no for a cornerback because it creates separation. The safety's inside, and it's just a bad play by the cornerback.
As Rudy Burgess trying to win a job. Picked up on the waiver wire from the New York Jets, and that's a first down here as it's Darius Walker taking it to the 2-yard line.
You know, you never see the top-end corners like a Champ Bailey flinching. You know, they're always backpedaling and under control, and it doesn't matter what you may do to them in the route. They're just, you know, they never move. You know, they've got you, and then when you make that definitive move, they're on it.
Well, the bad part about what the corner did, he had inside safety help, and he just didn't trust where his help was at, and he looked in the backfield. He can't do that.
Inside give again. Denver trying to get within a touchdown. We'll have to wait for that because Darius Walker is going to get taken down just shy of the goal line. Walker, third-year player out of Notre Dame, who's fighting for a spot on the roster.
You know, you take a peek at the fourth quarter, 6 minutes left, and most of the starters are, you know, got their shoulder pads off and they're, you know, messing around with their other players. But this is a very important time for these young guys. I mean, this is where these guys make the team. Coaches pay attention to this film right here.
No
very
question.
Important.
And the roster cut down starts this week, and you got to get down to 53 before opening day. And Rodney, too, I mean, I always thought about this at the end of some of these preseason games. This is the end of a lot of guys' football careers.
No question.
They're hanging on, trying to make the team, and if you don't, you know, it's off to the insurance business or something.
But the one thing about it is it's not like you're just auditioning for the Denver Broncos or the Chicago Bears. All other teams receive this film. So if one team may not like you, someone else may like you.
3rd and goal now. And this is Walker again, and he will get into the end zone. Swing into the outside. A little mile-high spike. A little Invesco leap of sorts. And it's a 1-touchdown game.
Well, we've got a different Harrison going to work out here. Watch Marcus Harrison, number 94. He has just been wading through the offensive line of the Broncos. Fortunately for the Broncos there, they ran away from him. Look at that. A good 4 or 5 yards in the backfield. And the Broncos found it the other way.
Matt Prater for the extra point. 24-17. Rodney Harrison will be very provocative, we know, in the studio in a couple of weeks. He's been provocative tonight. One more way to provoke you right now. Brandon Marshall. We've talked about him a lot tonight. Chris and I have talked about him. Chris, in effect, saying grow up. I concur. Your thoughts on that situation?
Well, I mean, it's a way of handling things. You're a professional right now. You have to do things the right way. You have to show up. Guys are in the locker room are counting on you. You're a Pro Bowl receiver. You're a leader of this team. You cannot act in that fashion. And really, for me, Chris, I wish someone at home would just grab him and say, what are you doing? You know, someone around him that's close to him and say, you know what, you need to grow up. You need to be a professional and go out there and handle your business. Because eventually, if you prove it on the field, if Denver doesn't pay you, someone else will.
Well, and right now you talked about auditioning for other teams. You want to get out of here, that's fine, but you have to go show them something, because right now the last thing in their mind is watching you knock down balls in practice and punt the football away. And you know every team has headaches. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to sign extra headaches. They have enough trouble with the headaches they already have. And right now, he's in a tough spot.
And if I'm a general manager looking at this guy, I'm saying if I invest $25, $35 million into this guy, if a little adversity hits, will he respond like this? And I just think, you know, you really show your true character when adversity hits.
And he's one more incident away from a lengthy suspension from the NFL, so I think that factors in as well.
Get it together, Brandon.
Yeah, well, it's the position, too. I mean, it's, you know,
here we go.
Here we go. You were, you know, the good ship Lollipop when you played. I understand that. It's fielded 3 yards in the end zone by Johnny Knox.
Are you calling him soft?
No, but he was whatever. Well,
paper cutty as he's out the game?
Yeah.
Like Kyle Orton?
Maybe so.
I didn't know you knew about my career.
Hey, he once threw a 99-yard touchdown pass. Did you know that?
I saw that.
You know what my nickname was?
Was that 72?
It seemed like it.
You know what
80.
my nickname was?
What's that?
Candlelight. One blow and I was out.
We'll stop it right there. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, coming up on opening night. Your thoughts on the Steelers trying to defend? And Tennessee, the best record in the league last year. As Brett Bazinet comes in at quarterback, and his first pass of the game is complete to Iglesias, a rookie out of Oklahoma. So Bazinet played at Northwestern, completes his first pass.
Well, you look at the past decade, and the AFC has really been dominated by 3 teams, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and the New England Patriots. And right now, Tennessee is in a position where they were 13-3 last year, had home field advantage, and all of a sudden they had a great defense. Their quarterback is playing well, ageless quarterback, and they have a good quarterback in Vince Young. But now it's time to take it to the next level, get into playoffs, and get into that upper echelon of teams.
How about without Albert Haynesworth? How big a difference does that make? You talked about Vince Wilfork and the force up front to draw the double teams. How much of a difference is that going to make?
I mean, he's the best defensive tackle in the game, so of course it makes a lot of difference. But at the same time, I'm not investing $100 million in one guy unless he touches the ball every single down, and that's a quarterback. So I would have let him go, and they're going to do a good job of rotating the guys and put different guys in there. Guys just going to have to step up.
You know, it's interesting that he really probably only took about 50 snaps at most per game anyway, because the whole league rotates those defensive tackles in and out.
Here's Peterson to the outside. Rodney, we wish you much success. Welcome to the business, my man. Great to have you aboard.
Thank you for having me.
Look forward to watching you every Sunday night
Appreciate it.
Before we go to work.
Good luck watching those 10 games at a time on Sunday.
And you enjoy Bel Air Country Club?
Yes, sir.
Such a hard life.
Come on out. Come on out. I'll even pay the caddy fee for you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Rodney Harrison, the newest member, along with Tony Dungy, going into the studio on Football Night in America. Bob Costas coming out on the road with us. And that all starts on the first Sunday night of the season when we'll see the Chicago Bears against the Green Bay Packers. First and 10 from the 46-yard line. To the 47, here goes Adrian Peterson. And let's get a word from Andrea.
Well, obviously, you guys talking so much about Brandon Marshall, but what happens when he's eligible to come back to the team on September 6th? Both Kyle Orton and Champ Bailey told me he's got a long way to go to earn his teammates' trust and to win back the locker room. Bailey, for one, said that he will have to see how he's going to do out there on the field, that he'll know right away if he's not giving his all, and that if he's not, it would be, quote, a big problem. I asked Champ point blank, do you think Brandon Marshall plays for this team this year? He said, I don't know, 50-50. And the bottom line for him is, he goes, there's no way he has any leverage to demand a trade.
So that is to be determined on every level as Gaines goes over the middle. The tight end picked up from Detroit, making the catch, and with 2:50 to play, it's a first and 10 at the Denver 33-yard line.
Big man running down the field, and you can see the man coverage underneath as they chase the guy in the flat, and Gaines just finds a little hole in the zone out there. We've seen a lot of action in the second half.
Yeah.
They're kind of going up and down the field. Usually you don't see this from the backup quarterbacks and the guys, but everybody's put on a pretty good show tonight. And I'll tell you, it's been really good news for Tom Brandstater. He's the guy that came in and played well after not so well last week.
This is Peterson. He takes it to the 21-yard line, and that's going to take us close to the 2-minute warning. And that much time remaining. Bazinet, second year out of Northwestern, was with Carolina. Picked up now by Chicago and trying to hang on. And Chicago trying to hang on, up by 7. 2 minutes to play.
Let's talk about
for TV. Check in Pro Football Talk, part of the NBCSports.com family right now. We'll come back to that in a second with Peterson taking it to the outside and picking up a first down behind a Jason Davis block. There it is, Pro Football Talk.NBCSports.com. Updated news and rumors from around the league. NFL.com/fantasy. You know, I got to tell you, Chris, I always thought fantasy football, I mean, for years, I thought that's ridiculous. But I was at a newsstand recently. You can't buy a magazine, or you can. There are like 1 or 2 magazines about what's really happening in the league, and there are like 50 to deal with fantasy football. It's insane.
Have you ever played it?
No, but I'm thinking about it.
Honest to goodness, it's fun. And you never feel so stupid in your whole life as when you pick those players that you know are going to be the great players out there, and then nothing. My kids used to hammer me every single year. I never won. I did it about 8 years in a row, and I said, that's it. I'm embarrassed enough.
Is it as much fun as shooting dice? Because if it is, I'll really be in trouble.
I have about the same chance of winning.
To the 3-yard line, Adrian Peterson. Meanwhile, early on, the stars of the show departed a couple of hours ago. Jay Cutler, Kyle Orton. There was Cutler. Got off to a little bit of a slow start. Everybody dressed for the occasion, all kinds of signs, the booing and all of that early on. Almost got taken down for a safety in the end zone, but before it was all said and done, hooked up with Olsen, hooked up with Hester, led him on a 98-yard drive, and for the night he wound up with 144 yards on 15 of 21. And there he is in preseason. Okay at Buffalo. Good performance against the Giants, and he's happy with what he did tonight.
Well, that game at Buffalo, offensively and defensively, just not very good. But last week against the Giants, you saw it for the first time, and now you're getting confirmation if you're a Bears fan. And I tell you, our Sunday night opener is setting up for one heck of a show, isn't it? Jay Cutler against Aaron Rodgers. How about what Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are doing this preseason?
Right. And it's, again, preseason, you don't know what it means. Does it mean, a lot of stuff? Does it mean whoopkus? Who knows? I mean, Marv Levy used to go 0-4 every year and wind up in the Super Bowl. But, with a team like Green Bay and coming off last year when they didn't play particularly well and there were a lot of injuries, and you're right, Rodgers has looked fabulous.
They're making the switch to the 34 defense themselves, and Aaron Campman trying to make the same conversion that Dumerville is making.
And this is Peterson. Well, the Denver fans came tonight hoping that Jay Cutler would throw 4 interceptions and get sacked about 9 times. That didn't happen. Their quarterback, Orton, had to go out with that cut finger, though Josh McDaniels telling Andrea that he didn't think it would be a problem and he would be able to be the opening day starter. And so what do you think the Denver fans collectively might be thinking right now, Chris?
They're not happy. I wouldn't be happy. I mean, really, a good young coach comes in here. Believe me, this system is going to work. This is a good system. Don't get down on him as a coach. If you want to get down on him for a decision, then I think that's fair and open game. But this is a system that will work, and it's just a matter of how quickly Kyle Orton can fit in. If he's the answer, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. But so far, it's been pretty rough in the preseason.
Well, she shares the sentiments of some people around here, but again, if the system works, and we talked about the fact one of the keys is going to be the running back, Noshawn Moreno. And one of the interesting things we should point out, too, in all the years that Mike Shanahan had control of not only the team on the field, but player personnel, he never picked a running back in the first round. He went with Tatum Bell and Clinton Portis in the second round. Terrell Davis was a 6th rounder. They picked up free agents. He made it work. And then McDaniels comes in, and of all things, his very first draft choice is a running back, Noshawn Moreno.
Yeah, I think it was in part because of all the issues they had a season ago. They must have gone through 9 starting running backs last year, and I think they finally just said, you know what, we need a bell cow here, somebody that can take over and make some plays with the running game.
Robbie Gould with a chip shot field goal, 25 yards to cement it. So, a week from Thursday, it's the traditional Thursday night opener now in the NFL. We'll have it on NBC, Tennessee against Pittsburgh, and then 3 nights later we'll go to Green Bay. And Bob and the gang, our new gang there with Tiki and Dan and Keith coming back, and Rodney and Tony coming into the studio. Bob out on the road with us. Football Night in America beginning September the 13th.
How about having a studio analyst in Tony Dungy that has been right in the middle of the news the entire offseason, you know, with this Mike Vick thing. But I tell you, Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy and some of these guys have such a great impact on this game and the young people that play it, and they're soft-spoken and they're father figures for a lot of these guys. And I was so thrilled to hear that the commissioner had asked Tony Dungy to be a part of the Mike Vick thing, because it was exactly what he did.
Picked off by Gold. Fielded in the end zone, Matthew Willis. Out to the 21-yard line, and one more play, and we can bid you adieu.
Looking forward to the season, though, partner.
Yes, sir, partner. It's going to be great.
You know, this is one of those crazy years. People want to try to pick out the favorite and who they think is going to win and all that. But I can make a case for about 20 teams in the league this year coming out and winning this thing, and it's just going to be so exciting. And we have some great, great games.
Wonderful storylines. Look at that Sunday night schedule, and we love it because after that first week, it's Giants and Cowboys in the first game in Jerry's new palace. Indianapolis against Arizona. Manning and the NFC champions going at it. And that will do it from Denver. That's the end of our preseason schedule. The Chicago Bears come west and knock off the Denver Broncos. The final score is 27-17. Cutler will go over and see Stokely. I would doubt seriously that he'll seek out Josh. And they'll head on back to Chicago. So Thursday night, September 10th, the Steelers and the Titans. Sunday night, the 13th, it'll be the Bears taking on the Packers on the first Sunday night football game of the season. Coming up next, except on the West Coast, your late local news, midnight Eastern, Dateline NBC. Until the 10th, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer, our entire NBC Sports crew. Good night from Denver.
NBC Sports thanks you for watching this presentation of
Chicago's NBC5. This is NBC5 News at 10.
A happy ending tonight for quarterback Jay Cutler, despite a less than warm welcome from his former fans. As Cutler returns to Chicago from Denver's Mile High Stadium tonight, the QB who left here for there goes home to nurse a finger. Good evening. Thanks for staying up late with us. I'm Dick Johnson. There were no records on the line in tonight's preseason game, just a lot of pride. It was a classic matchup of the quarterbacks who traded teams. Kyle Orton connected with his receivers before Jay Cutler did, but in the end, the new Bears QB triumphed over the old. Daryl Hawks joins us now with all the highlights and reaction from tonight's game in Denver. It was a great game, good finish too.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of reaction. I got to tell you, this is probably the most anticipated and most talked about preseason game, maybe in the history of the NFL. I mean, how often do teams swap quarterbacks and then get to duke it out just a few months later? Tonight, that was the case as the Bears took on the Broncos in Denver. It's only a preseason game, but don't tell that to the Broncos fans who showered their former QB, Jay Cutler, with boos. I mean, it was loud there. They don't like him very much. Kyle Orton, well, he was traded to Denver for Cutler, and he was also taking on his former team tonight. Yeah, a lot of drama, but not a lot of scoring early on. Devin Hester, he was returning punts again tonight, and he didn't waste any time reminding everybody just how dangerous he can be. Yeah, we've seen this before. A 54-yard return. Good stuff, and it would set up this 1-yard TD plunge for Matt Forte, and it's 10-3 Bears. As for Cutler, well, he would heat up in the second quarter. Here he hooks up with his former college teammate Earl Bennett for 16 yards. And then on second down, Cutler looking for who's been his favorite target all throughout the preseason, Greg Olsen. Yeah, he was his favorite target again. That's a 21-yard gain. And then he tops it off with a short TD pass to Mr. Forte, who had 2 touchdowns in the game. That would cap off a 98-yard touchdown drive for Cutler and the Bears. Chicago took a 17-3 lead. As for Cutler, well, he went 15 for 21 for 144 yards and that touchdown right there, as the Bears go on to win it by a final of 27-17. A very good third game, which is usually the most important game because this is the longest we're going to see the starters. We might not even see the starters at all in the next game. Now, you know Sports Sunday begins right after the newscast, and we want to know what you think. What impressed you the most about the Bears tonight against the Broncos? Hit us up at sports@NBCChicago.com, and we'll read your responses tonight during Sports Sunday. And we'll also tell you what happened to Kyle Orton. As you saw, he was walking off with an injured finger.
Yeah.
We'll tell you how that happened and tell you what he's thinking after this game.
We were talking about that's going to take a while to heal, too, given
that's a bad injury for a quarterback because you need that release point to throw the ball.
Look forward to more from you. Thank you, Daryl.
Okay.
As we said, it was not a happy homecoming for Jay Cutler in Denver, but no one thought it would be. Outside the stadium, some Broncos fans decided to tar and feather Cutler's old number 6 jersey, in fact. Others flushed the uniform down a fake toilet. We're not 100% sure which side of the fence some of these guys were on, though. If you'll notice, some of the people were wearing Cutler's Bears jersey. Another Broncos fan made a piñata in the form of Cutler. No word if it took a beating after the game. Not quite the same reaction here in Chicago. Bears fans packed West End, for example, on Madison to get front row seats of the Cutler-Orton matchup. All say Cutler is their man for now.
I have hope. You got to believe. I mean, if you don't believe in preseason, what are you going to believe?
Cutler's going to at least get us to the playoffs. Everything else is a crapshoot from there.
I think Cutler's a better quarterback for the Bears than Orton was, but I mean, time will tell if Orton's significantly worse than Cutler.
And a reminder, Sunday Night Football on NBC starts in 2 weeks right here on NBC5. Other news now, family members of 7 people murdered inside a Brown's Chicken restaurant will return to the courtroom again tomorrow for a second murder trial in that case. James Degorski is accused of being the ringleader 16 years ago when he and convicted killer Juan Luna walked into that suburban restaurant in the northwest suburbs. NBC5's Anthony Ponce has more now on tomorrow's opening statements.
Tick, the first suspect, Juan Luna, was sentenced to life in prison. James Degorski will face either that or the death penalty if he's also convicted in these murders. For the victims' families, the pain will never go away, but this trial is the last time they'll be forced to relive that day in 1993. And for the town of Palatine, the former mayor says a second conviction would bring long overdue closure.
It was very, very difficult.
Rita Mullins served as mayor of Palatine for 20 years, starting in 1989. As she walks over the spot, which is now a parking lot where the Brown's Chicken once stood, she reflects on what Palatine was like before that tragic day.
Palatine was a place where no one locked their doors.
More than a decade of uncertainty passed until acquaintances of Juan Luna and James Degorski came forward with the story of them bragging about killing 7 people, leaving the bodies in the restaurant's walk-in refrigerators.
After this incident, no one knew who or why, and everyone locked their doors and were afraid to go out.
With the first suspect in prison for life, the restaurant no longer there to serve as a constant visual reminder of the brutal crime, Mullins looks at the trial of James Degorski as the last big step before the town has true healing.
Finally, to bring an end for the community, it will be nice. It'll be very something that everyone will feel in their hearts.
Luna and Degorski, who were 18 and 20 years old at the time, eluded police until a former girlfriend of Degorski came forward with details about the crime that she kept to herself for 9 years out of fear for her life. Mullins says the years of uncertainty tested the patience of Palatine residents and looks forward to putting the so-called Brown's Chicken massacre behind her for good.
I always felt that it would be solved in my lifetime.
Opening statements are set to begin tomorrow morning, and the trial is expected to last between 3 and 4 weeks. We did speak with one of the victims' mothers tonight who didn't want to speak publicly yet, but said she will be in court tomorrow. And tonight, the co-founder of Brown's Chicken tells NBC5 he looks forward to the victims' families finally getting justice.
It's been a long ordeal. Thank you, Anthony. 2 men were